about to galvanize his base, get him more sympathy, and maybe the more pressing questions are, is this real? Okay, look, Jazz, Gerard not here today, so we could conspiracy theory it out. We could talk about everything that is conspiracy theory
I
having to
th-
deal with this.
I'm gonna tell you like this. I thought the first shot was conspiracy.
Right.
So I think the second shot is
It's
conspiracy.
conspiracy. Okay, so we're going to have to talk about that today. I want to entertain these conversations. Okay, also, talking about game changers, Governor Landry came down to respond to what has taken place during Hurricane Francine. Okay, we had flooding still. We had down power lines. Over almost a half a million people without power and without Wi-Fi. And I know Gen Z was acting crazy about no Wi-Fi. Okay, my son was about to jump off the ledge. He did not understand what was taking place. Okay, so Governor Landry decided that he was going to come down and talk about sewage and water board and how it is that he would respond. Now, the backstory is that at some point he denied additional funds for another power substation. Okay, and now when people started pressing him about the money, he didn't say he didn't have the money. He said he would search for the money. All right. And he also gave a few key warnings that we're going to have to talk about. So we'll talk about that on today's show. Additionally, today we'll have a rendition of the classroom edition of the reality check. And so we're going to have some esteemed colleagues of mine from Xavier University, along with esteemed students of mine from the great Xavier University, to come and talk about a few things on the show. So, more Landry's shenanigans. He has outlawed critical race theory. He has also said that we would wind up having the 10 Commandments posted in the classroom. And his administration has also been pushing book bans. So we want to talk more about what's happening on the educational front. Okay. Also, we're going to go ahead and do a breakdown of why don't young people vote. And I have the perfect person to do that with me. Okay, this great student who has extraordinary analysis, superb communication talent, okay, is Caleb Wilkes. Everybody give him a round of applause.
Thank you,
Where's my bell?
thank you, thank you, thank you.
He's serving as co-host today, and it's nice to have you here with us, sir.
Nice to be here.
Also, let me just say, Caleb is the first major for my Department of African American and Diaspora Studies. And so we're going to have to talk about it, Caleb. Could you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell everybody a little bit more about you. I'm sure they're familiar with you because you featured in all 3 of our Why Don't Young People Vote events, and people have always wanted to hear more from you. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Caleb Wilkes. I'm a junior here at Xavier University of Louisiana. I'm a double major in AADS and psychology. I'm from Dallas, Texas. What else about me? I'm fat. I'm black. I play the trumpet in the jazz band here.
Come on.
I'm in several organizations. I'm treasurer for the AADS club here. I'm treasurer for the Express U Club here, which is an organization that promotes creatives and artists on campus. I'm also in, what am I not in? I'm in the horticulture club. I'm in the English club. I'm also an English tutor here. I do a lot on campus. But
Wow. That's a lot. That is a lot. I was giving you too much homework. That is a lot. Or maybe not enough because you was able to do other stuff, right? I don't know. Okay, so what you did not tell the people, though, is that you are also a Cowboys fan. Okay,
Oh,
in that
goodness.
long introduction, he did not say he
we
was
ain't
a
got to talk
Cowboys
about
fan.
that right now. Maybe last Sunday we could have, but right
Yeah,
now ain't a good time
Caleb,
for that.
we're not gonna hold that against you in here, brother.
I appreciate it.
Okay, and look, New Orleans people was acting a fool in Dallas. They were acting a fool. They was second line in. We bought the second line to that with a full band and everything. Okay, we're gonna have to talk. Well, do you want to take up for your team or?
I ain't got no excuses for them. It's been decades at this point.
Okay.
The same old, same old.
Okay, basically you just like the colors at this point.
Well, it's just because I'm from there, so I have to. It'd be blasphemy for me not to be a
okay.
Dallas fan.
All right. Oh, we feel sorry for you for that. But you got to take your responsibility for your team. Okay. So with that being said, Caleb, could you talk a little bit more about the Why Don't Young People Vote event? Like, you've been there all 3 times. So could you tell us more about your impressions about the last one that we recently held? Because people have been asking.
I feel like the last one was a very successful one, especially with the turnout. The room was pretty full. I love the energy from my fellow students. I love the energy from the professors that I've heard. I love the energy from the people on the panel. I do feel like though that the bit of disregard for the young people's opinions that the politicians seem to have is a little disturbing from the young people's perspective, because even in talking to my friends after the event, a lot of them felt like they still weren't heard regardless. They were heard by you, they were heard by Gerard, they were heard by professors, but they still weren't heard by the people who have the power to interact based on what they're hearing. So there's a lot of discrepancy between what young people still want and what they need to say and what the politicians are actually doing and what the politicians are actually communicating to us, and what they do behind closed doors and what they tell us is 2 different things. And that was one of my questions that I asked them was about their donor funds and like what corporations they take money from and if that's okay or not and how they can stop that. They didn't answer that question. So there's a lot of closed door nonsense going on with politicians that young people aren't fans of, and because of that, young people just aren't as enthused to vote because we haven't been sold the American dream like generations before us.
Oh, you just said a lot. Oh, you just said a lot.
Yes, he did.
So one of the things was that we were trying with this one to try to balance out the voices by having the students on the panel. So I think that, or do you think that we had more student voice represented this time, but it just wasn't received?
Yeah, I agree. We definitely have more student voices represented this time. But the issue is that it doesn't really matter what we say if the politicians aren't listening to us. It doesn't, because if it rings on deaf ears, then nothing is going to happen. They're just going to go back and keep doing what they've been doing. And a lot of my fellow students feel the same way. None of them felt like they were genuinely heard at the event, which is unfortunate because I know how passionate you are about it, and I know how passionate the students are about it, especially at Xavier here. But at the end of the day, the politicians they have a responsibility to their constituents, and it's unfortunately rare that they actually uphold those responsibilities.
Man, that you just went in, okay? Because you have me thinking about different things, about political options and opportunities. And I did hear a somewhat dance around the question about where people get their funds and being driven by those interest groups. Now, let me say, it's recalling back where Congressman Troy Carter was like, well, anybody can write a check. That doesn't mean that I have to give them my vote for what it is that they want. Right. So I felt like he was trying to address it. But what you're not asking for is only him. You're asking on a large en masse basis. We know that these interest groups and lobbyists drive what is happening in politics. And could they talk more about the responsiveness of politicians to that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because after the event, I went online and looked at AIPAC, which is the organization that allocates funds from Israel, which is currently committed genocide against Palestinians. And Troy Carter takes funds from AIPAC. He hasn't taken much yet because he's still relatively fresh in Congress, but he's still taking money from an organization that supports genocide. And from my generation's perspective, that's unacceptable. And that isn't something that we feel we are represented by. And that isn't something that I feel like is representative of what the Black pursuit historically has been and needs to be in the future.
Ooh. Okay, as you said, the Black pursuit like that, you're making me think about another tense moment inside of our voting event. Okay, when Dr. Atwater was trying to hold people to task about what do we have that's specifically Black,
Mhm.
right? So I hear some of that.
Yeah.
Now, also, when you talk about politicians taking campaign funds,
Mhm.
right, from, I mean, you called out Israel,
Yeah.
so, and AIPAC, so let's just put it out there.
Mhm.
Okay, you're making me think about Kamala Harris
Mhm.
and this position that she has that seems to be in a delicate balance, right? Playing between, what did she call it? The right for Israel for self-defense
Yeah.
and the self-determination of Palestinians.
Mhm.
How is that coming across to people like yourself, to young people and those who are informed? You know, I saw her during the Democratic
The convention.
convention,
Yeah.
and when she started getting to that point and she was explaining, and everybody, they kept yelling at the same level. Now this is where my criticism came in, right? Nobody was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We didn't hear the applause dwindle down or anything like that. It was just like, yeah, right? How is that coming across to people, young people who, as I said last time that I was on the show on Monday, have put their lives on the line literally at the end of last semester to ensure that people were being responsive to the voices of young people around Israel, Palestine?
Yeah, it's not coming across well at all. I can't speak for all young people because obviously there are some young people that still support Israel, but from what I can tell, especially when it comes to Black college students, a lot of us aren't engaged with Kamala when it comes to that. There are there there are a certain set of morals and standards that politicians do not hold themselves to. And Kamala Harris, unfortunately, isn't holding herself to that moral when it comes to Israel. Now, she's been a Zionist for her whole career.
Ooh, wait,
That-
hold up. How you just gonna say that on the microphone like this and just say it and keep going? Okay, so you said, okay, do you want to give us more about why you say that? What's the background behind? Is there something that the listeners need to know?
I mean, she's admitted that she's been a Zionist her whole career.
Yeah.
She's still a Black Christian woman from California who believes in capitalism and corporations and businesses and all these things. And it's funny because during the debate, Donald Trump was talking about how her father was a Marxist professor.
Yeah.
And it's true, her father is a Marxist professor, and is also.
But aren't we all a little Marxist?
Yeah, exactly.
Professor? Come on now.
Exactly, but it's also the reason that her and her father don't really talk because her father's a Marxist professor and she's a capitalist person who's pro corporations, pro Israel, pro all of these things that uphold power structures that ultimately harm the marginalized. It harms the poor, it harms Black people, it harms young people. And I'm not sure if you know of him. There's this streamer named Hassan Piker, and he's pretty popular among my generation, and he's like known for like talking about these things in politics. And he always talks about this imaginary undecided moderate voter that the Democratic Party always tries to adhere to.
Yeah.
And they always try to lean more to the right in order to get this imaginary undecided voter who is teetering between Trump and whoever the Democratic Party is supporting.
Yes.
But those aren't the type of people that are going to change the decisions when it comes to voting. The people who they need to be adhering to is one, young people, Black people, poor people, the people who aren't enthused to get off their couch and vote because they know the system doesn't represent them or help them. So it's really a matter of, one, I don't support the Democratic strategy of trying to appeal to this imaginary person if that may or may not vote, and they're just like waiting on one specific thing to vote Democrat. And I don't like that she's flaunting these all these whatchamacallit, all these endorsements from these Republicans that she's getting. She's like, I have over 200 endorsements and Dick Cheney endorsed me.
Right.
And I'm like,
and his daughter.
Yeah. And I'm like, these are the same people who are, one, they were supporting Trump way back in the beginning in 2016 when we knew he was bad. Everybody knew he was bad, but that didn't matter to them. They just don't like him now because he's threatening the structure of American power and democracy, if we can call it a democracy.
Come on
And-
now. Wait.
Yeah.
I'm keeping this closer to me.
Yeah,
while you
if we
hear.
can call it a democracy. But she's really trying to appeal to all sides But the issue is that the Republican side isn't a side that is conducive to human values, and it's not a side that is conducive to what's best for Black people, what's best for young people, what's best for poor people. They support the rich, they support white people, they support Christians, they support those that are in power and those that want to stay in power. And because of that, I don't feel like Kamala Harris's policies and the rhetoric that she's promoting is very supportive of what young people want.
Okay. I'm hearing what you're saying. I'm have a response for you though. I'm gonna push on you a little bit. Okay, because what I also remember from our voting event was that you had to say, right, before you even started going in, you said what?
I said I'm gonna vote for Kamala Harris.
I'm voting for Kamala Harris. So before everybody starts calling in and going crazy on this young man, okay, he has already pledged to vote for Kamala. Okay, so why do you want to vote for her then?
Because it's strategic. I feel like people put too much personal opinions on their voting and they tend to vote for single issues. But to me, voting is a chess play. Voting isn't something that you do because you're just so impassioned to do it. To me, voting is something that you do to help you get ahead, but it's not the primary thing that you need to do. Voting is one very small piece of the puzzle that leads towards better lives for us. And I'm only voting for Kamala Harris because, one, Trump literally said he wants to be a dictator on day one. And he obviously is supported by a racist, fascist, neo-Nazi, KKK, gunslinging group of people. As you see, they're literally harassing Haitian people in Springfield right now. It's really not even an option at the moment. So I understand people who don't want to vote for Kamala Harris because honestly, I'm not a big fan of Kamala Harris. But at the end of the day, it's still a matter of what would be the best option for the marginalized in America and what person would be able to help us get to those means sooner or if at all, compared to the other one. And that's Kamala Harris at the moment.
Okay, all right. I hear what you're saying. I hear you talking about the two-party system and one versus the other, but you're making me think more about other candidates. We have other candidates. Nobody's talking about this. And so I want to talk more about it when we come back from this break. Let's go ahead and move to break. And when we come back, more about our other candidates.
Hi, this is Coach Sash for WBOK Sports. Join us every Friday night for our prep preview show, where we'll have excellent analysis, we'll talk about the matchups of the evening, and get you ready for the night's games. Every Friday night from 6 to 7 o'clock on WBOK 1230 AM.
Discover the Leah Chase School, NOLA Public School's first new direct-run traditional public school in nearly 2 decades. We offer excellence in math, science, English, and social studies, focusing on unlocking every child's potential. Every scholar receives a personal device, regular assessments, clear family communication, as well as transportation services in a nurturing arts-inclusive environment. Secure your child's K through 5th grade slot today. Apply at enrollnolaps.com and embark upon a unique educational journey.
New Orleans Burlesque is back. The Red Light District, located on the 2nd floor of your New Orleans headquarters by Nice Guys, presents a captivating, international, award-winning burlesque experience that will leave you breathless. Indulge in the sounds of our Grammy Award-winning quartet and exceptional food pairings each and every Saturday. To purchase tickets, visit Eventbrite.com, and remember, what happens in the Red Light District stays in the Red Light District.
Boost your savings with a CD from Home Bank. For a limited time, Home Bank is offering 5.05% annual percentage yield on a 5-month CD. If you want a longer term, take advantage of the 4.50% APY on a 9-month CD. The minimum balance for this special is just $2,500. So speak with a banker at any Home Bank location today. Home Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
All right. Hello, everyone. We are back. And we're here inside of the studio with the classroom edition of the Reality Check. Again, I'm Dr. Shepard, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Caleb Wilkes, who is also a student at Xavier University. Okay, so we were getting into some of the very nitty-gritty behind politics, but we wanted to go ahead and kind of press on this issue a little bit more, but we got a caller on the line. Caller, could you tell me, what are your thoughts on what we are talking about? Okay. Oh,
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? It's Carl Galman.
Okay, yes. Hi, Mr. Galman. How you doing today?
Let me say, I was listening to this young man speak on your show. Is he still there?
Yes, he's still here.
Let me say this to the young brothers. I'm 84 years of age, and I've been involved in civil rights for over 50 years. The first thing you do before you consider voting for a candidate, you investigate that background and see who's supporting that candidate. That's the first thing you do.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump has 838 hate groups supporting him.
Ooh.
From the Ku Klux Klan to white nationalists. Now, many of us have short memories. There's an organization in this country called Identity Dixie. I want him to write that down, a young man. Write down that organization, Identity Dixie. They were the ones that put that march on in Charlottesville, Virginia, where they were saying Jews will not replace us. That march was put together by Richard Spencer, who heads up the white nationalist movement in America, and David Duke. During this whole entire campaign, you have not heard anything about David Duke or Richard Spencer. They heads up two of the largest hate groups in America. And Identity Dixie is supporting Donald Trump. Identity Dixie wanted to turn the 13 southern states in the South into a separate nation. They claim they have the support of Donald Trump, that if Donald Trump becomes president, he's going to support them to making a South a separate nation. That's why HBCUs is very important, because they got professors on those campuses. They educate young folks at college campuses. I first learned this, I attended Grambling State University. And if you can talk with the students at Southern University in Baton Rouge, they played a major role during the civil rights movement. And information on HBCU campus, y'all need to do the research on every candidate that's running for a major office. Find out where they're getting their money from. That's another thing. Look who's financing those campaigns for them. And young folks should get out and vote. One of the most serious things facing young folks today, as it relates to the presidential campaign, is Donald Trump say he's going to cut out student loans and student debt. if they cut out student loans and student debt, they might have to call Grambling and Southern down, because a large number of students that's in Southern and Grambling State University go there on loans and grants.
Yeah, he says he wants to shut down the whole Department of Education.
Mm-hmm.
Preach the gospel. And that should alarm every college student in America that's going to school on a grant or student loan.
Mm-hmm.
And that young brother sounds like he's very smart.
Thank you.
They should call a assembly to talk with the students on Xavier campus and let them know that Donald Trump has already said he's going to cut out student loans and grants. And that's the way a lot of African Americans attend college.
Mm-hmm.
And they should tear them polls down, not before election day, but go and register and vote early. Make sure your name on the registration list. Call your friends. If you belong to a sorority or fraternity, they should be leading this on a black college campus, because they are looked upon at SGA as the leadership on a black college campus. We have 107 HBCUs in America. We got 6 in Louisiana. Those 6 HBCUs should come together and put together a master plan on how to get out the vote. During Barack Obama's campaign, I worked in Barack Obama's campaign in 2008. Out of 107 HBCUs, Barack Obama had major support of 78 HBCUs. We gave them a nickname. We called them foot soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
They was the one knocking on those doors, getting folks to go out and vote. They were the one driving those vans, getting senior citizens to the polls to vote. So the HBCUs can play a major role in this election coming up. There's 107. If they get out and do their job, Kamala Harris will win in November. So I'd like to thank the brother for getting on and expressing his concern about what should happen on college campuses and why we should go out to vote. I'm proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you for your information.
Thank you so much, Mr. Galman, for calling in. I really appreciate hearing your voice and for you spreading more about what it is that you all have done.
It's the key. The HBCU's college student is the key to this election.
Oh, we're going to use that as a direct quote. Thank you so much, Mr. Galman. Okay. And with that being said, I think he's shedding more light, because we were talking before the show started about what it is that we need to do with the next event, like what the next event needs to be. Now, Congressman Carter at one point said we could do the pre-ballot thing where we're going over what's going to be on the ballot with everyone so that they understand what's taking place. But I hear what Mr. Galman is saying is organize everyone and let them truly know what's at stake.
Yeah.
And then assign foot soldiers, people like yourself, more work for you, right? That's going to go out to make sure that we're getting people registered, people are ordering absentee ballots, and that everyone is accounted for. Even just using the HBCUs as the base for what it is that's about to take place. We know we want to defeat Donald Trump. Okay, you got any thoughts? Because he was signifying over to you.
I mean, I love a good history lesson, and I appreciate, especially when our elders take the time to educate young people. Because I'm not from Louisiana, so there's a lot of Louisiana history I don't know.
Right.
So I appreciate the information that he gave, and I agree with him about the necessity of HBCUs. But I wouldn't even say HBCUs, because that's adhering to, Du Bois's talented 10th rhetoric. I feel like it's all black people who have the capacity to go out there and help people and get people to vote. Because it doesn't just need to be educated black people. Educated black people aren't the center of the black community. Black people are the center of the black community. So I feel like if we can get black people in general to go out and vote, then we can really make changes. Because, like, I'm from Texas. Texas has the highest number of black people of any state, but you wouldn't know that because the black people in the state don't organize to the same extent as other states. And if the black vote in Texas really voted the numbers that they are, Texas would have been a blue state decades ago. So it's really a matter of what we can do to organize and also getting our politicians to be people that are worthy of our vote, because that's also an issue that I'm concerned about, is whether or not Kamala Harris in the long run will be worthy of the vote.
Mm. Okay, I see that we have another caller on the line, Miss Williams. Miss, no, okay. Oh, okay. I'll let you do it. Okay, okay, Miss Williams. No. Okay, so I hear what it is that you're saying. I feel as though that got deeper into what we spoke about before. So we keep on reflecting back over the same voting event, thinking, well, what do we need to do to make it bigger or to make it more effective? And one of the things that we were talking about is bringing it out into the community so that we could wind up galvanizing our local base in a deep level, on a deep level. Okay, now I hear that. That's one thing. Okay. Now, also, I mean, Mr. Galman talked about all of the people who are supporting Trump. Okay. I think that we just saw something that was peculiar, which is that there was a second assassination attempt on Trump. Okay. Now, the reason why I say that is peculiar is because it was done by one of his supporters, allegedly.
Like the first one, too.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
So what is this telling us either about his supporters or, I mean, what's taking place? What do you think, Caleb? Do you think that this is true assassination attempts by deranged gunmen, the kind of lone wolf solo shooter thing? Is this that? Or is this some kind of other mass conspiracy because we're okay with conspiracy theory here? What do you think?
I think one, it doesn't really matter what it is, because at the end of the day, it really matters what the effect on the voter base is. But when it comes to my personal opinion, I don't really think either of them are real, because the first one, he ain't even got a hole in his ear. He ain't got Nan Pearson. That ear done healed up so quickly. And this one, the most recent one, they said that he was sitting there for over almost 12 hours in the bushes with a rifle and nobody saw him. I don't really buy that, especially when he's supposed to be the former president. Secret Service is supposed to be all on that. So I don't really feel like either of these were genuine assassination attempts, especially when America has the highest gun volumes. We have more guns than people in the country, and both of them missed. I don't feel like either of these assassination attempts were real. But at the end of the day, it really matters what the voters think about that and how they respond to that, and whether or not it changes the outcome of the election. I don't think it will.
Wait. When you say not real, real bullets, right?
Mm-hmm.
These were real bullets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but not real in the sense of
there was never an intention of Donald Trump being shot or killed. And I think it's unfortunate because the first one, 2 people did die at his rally. So I'm not saying that the bullets weren't real or that there wasn't a real gun or anything, but I am saying that I don't believe there was any intention of Donald Trump ever being killed. And I feel like it's a ploy by his campaign to try and garner more votes, because he's getting competition from Kamala Harris, especially after Biden dropped out and people were more enthused again because no one really wanted Biden. So it's really just a matter of how does his voters feel about it, and are there any voters on our side that are thinking about sympathizing with him and voting for him or not voting against him.
Right. Okay, so I want to hear more from this, and we have a caller on the line. We have Miss Brenda Williams on the line. Miss Williams, could you tell us more about what you think, either about what Caleb has been saying or about our voting moving forward or the Trump assassination attempt? Let us know what your thoughts.
Okay, well, my thoughts are strictly about voting, and voting for us should not be an option. We stand on the shoulders of too many people who lost their lives, lost their liberty because of not having that right to vote and seeking that right to vote. And what I say to young people is, I've been there before. I've been young before and very opinionated. We need young people at every end of the spectrum. But I do urge them to listen past the podcasts that they listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Know who's giving them an opinion and where that opinion is coming from. And I think that there was a young lady who spoke at one of your events at Xavier University, and she said, read past the headline. And I think that that's a very, very profound statement.
Yes.
And I only urge you to read past the headline and the first paragraph,
Mm-hmm.
because the headline and the first paragraph could very well be propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the headline and the first paragraph don't even agree with the middle or the end of the article. I urge that, and know our history. Right now, there is a wonderful play that's going to be staged on Thursday and on Saturday at the Historic New Orleans Collection. And this play is called Never Fight a Shark in the Water, and it's being programmed in collaboration or support of an exhibition called Captive State, Louisiana and the Making of Mass Incarceration. Now, Caleb, I think you mentioned that you're not from Louisiana and you don't know about Louisiana's history. Well, a lot of Louisianans don't know Louisiana's history either because it wasn't made prevalent for us. I'm more of Mr. Gallman's era, and I do appreciate his being on, and he's so profound in what he says. Right. We were not taught a lot of these things. And Malcolm X said, if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. Mm-hmm. He was being somewhat facetious, but there was a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
I recommend that everybody, whether you're from Louisiana or not, visit that exhibition, and you'll learn a lot about what we face in Louisiana and why we face it. So not everybody who claims to be our friend is our friend. We have, and I think, Caleb, you were the one who said, follow the money trail and follow the supporter trail. That way we'll find out a lot about who's supporting who. And sometimes it might just come down to, do you want your foot cut off or do you want both legs cut off? Mm-hmm. Well, that might be your choice, but make that choice wisely. So I encourage every able person to vote. A lot of people are saying that young people are not voting. That's not true. There are some young people who don't vote, but there are a lot of older people who don't vote. Mm-hmm. They might tell you that they're registered, and they may not be. They may tell you that they vote, and they may not do that. But I've been working with voter campaigns since I was too young to vote, and I can tell you proof perfect that not everybody who says they're voting is voting, and not everybody who says they're voting for your candidate is voting for that candidate. Now, I can't prove that. But anyway, that's all that I had to say. But I appreciate the dialogue. I appreciate people talking about the issues that you bring forth. And that is the way that we're going to have intergenerational exchanges of ideas. I was at Southern University when 2 students were murdered there. And it's not called murder by everybody. But when you're standing in the front of the academic building at Southern University and you see what goes down, you know that it was murder. I also want to recommend 2 books by Professor Angela Allen Bell. Mm-hmm. And you can Google them, you can find them, and particularly as they pertain to First Amendment rights. And I think that we'll all be better off for reading that information. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Ms. Williams, for giving us a call. I do want to go ahead and make sure that we respond to some of what it is that you said, which is that some of the same reasons that young people don't vote are why older people don't vote. Mm-hmm. And that was something that came out inside of our conversation when we held the event both times, or really all 3 times. People feeling as though they don't have choices, people feeling as though the technology about it is difficult, mm-hmm. right? The information is mysterious. Mm-hmm. and so on and so forth. But I do think that there's a lot more that has to be done. And I hear you too. Also, Ms. Williams, it sounded like you were saying that we have to vote for the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
I heard when she said, are you going to get both legs or just your foot amputated, right? It sounds like a lesser of two evils thing. Is that the territory that we're in?
I mean, I agree that it's a matter of lesser of two evils, but I also feel like it shouldn't be that way, and we shouldn't accept that as normalcy. We should keep fighting for a day where we have a good and an evil, if an evil at all. And voting for a lesser of two evils at the moment is just a matter of sustenance. It should not be a matter of prosperity. It's a matter of survival to eventually get to prosperity.
Okay, so that's going to bring us to the question that goes into our break. My question is, well, is it just two parties, though? Don't we have the Green Party? Isn't the good brother Cornel West running as a candidate? I just saw a poll that was released that said that he was the second candidate who was possibly going to win, that it wasn't Kamala and Trump. And I'm saying Kamala because I feel as though she's going to win. I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. I'm going to show my hand. I think she's going to win. Okay, so not just her being first place, Trump second place. There was a poll released that showed Cornel West in second place.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we going? Is this an actuality? Like, I don't even hear anybody talking about the campaign. So I want to speak about it when we come back from off of commercial break. Let's go ahead and take a break for these messages, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 a.m.
You know, there are some people who just light up your heart with a feeling of grace, peace, and comfort when you're in their presence. Mrs. Sybil Heidel Morial was such a person. With her recent passing, I am reminded of just how much she meant to the nation, the state, and her beloved city of New Orleans. Her quiet grace and eloquence belied her fierce resolve to wage a relentless battle in the fight for civil rights and human justice. It is well documented that she became the first African-American First Lady upon the election of her husband Dutch as the first African-American mayor of the Crescent City. But Sybil was a warrior in her own right. She fought alongside her husband as they together battled against the scions of bigotry and racial hatred. She would chronicle the death threats that she and Dutch received when he was president of the New Orleans NAACP in her memoir, Witness to Change, From Jim Crow to Political Empowerment. When denied a membership in the League of Women Voters because she was African American, Mrs. Morial formed an organization to help blacks vote. She was among the first to test the anti-integration policy against blacks attempting to enroll at both Tulane and Loyola universities. Neither accepted her as a student at the time because she was African American. A lifelong educator with 2 degrees from Boston University, she successfully challenged the statute prohibiting public school teachers from being involved in any organization advocating civil rights. Inasmuch as she and Dutch were champions of the civil rights movement, Sybil was also a guiding force for family, helping Dutch raise 5 children, including Mark Morial, who would follow in his father's footsteps, also becoming mayor of New Orleans, and a daughter, Monique Morial, who is an Orleans Parish judge and was recently elected to the 4th Circuit Court of Appeals without opposition. I shall miss Mrs. Morial, seeing her face, hearing her voice, forever reminding me of the power of grace, elegance, eloquence, dignity, and quiet resolve in the face of challenge and duress. My sincere gratitude and heartfelt condolences to the Morial and Heidel families. This is Norman Robinson, Off the Top.
September is National Recovery Month and time to celebrate the millions of Americans in recovery. Metropolitan Human Services District wants to remind you that treatment is effective and everyone can recover. If you are looking for a recovery program and you live in the Orleans, St. Bernard, or Plaquemines Parish, visit mhsdla.org or call 504-568-3130. Recovery is possible, and MHSD is here to help. Metropolitan Human Services District, where we change lives.
Calling all college students. The National African American Insurance Association presents their free 2024 Career Fair and Expo September 17th and 18th. To register, go to naaia.national on Instagram and use the link in the bio.
It's no secret that in New Orleans, we love good food just as much as we love our community. So why not make groceries while supporting local food producers too? Crescent City Farmers Market hosts year-round, rain or shine, where you can buy the region's freshest in-season produce, dairy, meat, seafood, and more. Using SNAP benefits at our market is easy, and with Market Match, you can double your dollars. Yes, that's right. Swipe your EBT card and we'll match every SNAP dollar, doubling your grocery budget so you can purchase more fresh fruits, vegetables, and food-bearing plants. Check us out on social media and visit us at marketumbrella.org for dates and locations. See you at the market.
WBOK is pleased to announce the reboot of Crosstown Conversations with host Gene Nathan. A heightened focus on cultural entertainment events and the creators who present them. The new time is now Saturday at noon. Tune into the stories of our exploding creative scene with Gene Nathan on Crosstown Conversations.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
All right, people. And we're back. We are back, and we are talking about this two-party system, right? We are talking about the two-party system, and we just got through with one of the calls that said we are voting for the lesser of two evils. Now, Ms. Williams gave us a lot of good information about voting, about the fact that it's your duty. I think that we stressed that before, that voting is your duty. But you said before that's not about to bring young people out, right? Just telling them, oh, it's your duty. A lot of people died for this, so you should do it. That message doesn't seem to be as effective for young people nowadays.
It's not at all effective.
Right.
At all.
Is it like a turnoff?
It is a bit of a turnoff because from the young perspective, it's more of a scapegoat for y'all, well, not y'all, for the politicians and older people to avoid giving us what we want. It's more of a way for politicians to avoid saying the obvious, which is that y'all don't do what we want y'all to do. So why should we vote? And then they keep saying it's our duty and it's our responsibility. And I don't feel like, as a collective of Black people, we do have a duty and responsibility to each other. But at the end of the day, people are still individuals. And if you want people to individually be inspired to vote, they need to be inspired by the candidate and by the party. Because people were inspired by Obama. And people were inspired by Trump because they engaged with them in a way that made them enthused to vote. They felt like they could get something from this. So just saying that you need to vote because you need to vote, or because historically your ancestors fought for the right to vote, it isn't a good way to get young people to vote, because we are not as in touch with this larger idea of collective action. We're in touch with what do we need, and at the moment politicians haven't given us what we needed in a very long time.
Yeah, I just need everybody, all politicians and everybody who's trying to convince people to throw that playbook out the window. Like, for real. Like, no, for real. Like, rip that page out the book and throw it away, because that hasn't worked since I was in high school. Right. Honestly. I'm gonna be 100% with you, because, and what I'm about to say is a little bit more edgy, right? Because and I understand exactly where you're coming from. That's perfectly explained, right? But from where I come from, it's like, and I'm a voter, right?
You got to tell
But
people
my
on the
ang-
station that
Yeah,
you're a voter.
I got to tell everybody that I'm a voter, but
Right.
I understand where another set of these non-voters
Right.
come from. Because another set of these non-voters come from, oh yeah, our people died, but here it is 30, 40 years later, and 1% has changed.
Right.
1% of the situation has changed. And then I also come from the group that says, hey, until y'all fix the electoral college. Debacle,
Right.
debacle, you know what I'm trying. Yeah. You can't reverse anything, because that is literal proof that, and I know when I say this, everybody in WBOK world goes crazy. This is literal proof that your independent vote is nothing but a suggestion to someone who is not bound by law to follow your vote. And if you wanted to fix it, all you have to do is bind that guy by law. And then the argument of our vote don't count is out of the window. It's that simple of a fix.
Okay, now look, y'all are really going in. Y'all are really going in, because I hear that, and I feel like that used to be the thing that almost made me feel like, well, why even vote, right? Because the popular vote seems like more of a suggestion than a rule. Okay, now I'm gonna tell y'all what they told me. Okay, the elders told me, well, once you get a Democratic president and both Democratic houses, then they can push through whatever they want. So the idea of being able to unpack the electoral college, the things that you want to be corrected, they'll be able to push through. And we actually haven't had that in quite some time. And the ability to have a Republican hold over the Senate or the House, a lot of Republicans during the Obama administration basically just said whatever he puts through will be opposed, right? And so we saw that struggle. Now, I'm not going to say I all the way agree. Caleb, I saw your eyes get really big when I said it. Okay, so if you want to add something, feel free.
I agree with you for the most part. I do feel like having both the House and the Senate is very important. But at the end of the day, they're still politicians, and they still take money from corporations, and they still don't adhere to their constituents in the way that they should. Like, for instance, we have two Democrats. We have Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and both of these people have, for the most part, sold out the Democratic Party and withheld their vote or voted against the Democrats because of whatever money they was getting in the back door. And when it comes to politicians like that, that regardless of who has the House or the Senate, if everyone's not on the same page, then nothing is going to get through. And then even more of it gets taken advantage of when we actually want substantial economic change. If it goes against corporations, then they're going to lobby for that to not go through. And then you know how long it takes for bills to even get through the House and the Senate and through to the president's desk. It's a long time, and by the time that happens, we're up at election season again, and then they go, oh, if you vote, we're going to get this through, and then people vote, and then it doesn't go through because now new people in the House and new people in the Senate. So it's a never-ending cycle of, oh, well, we're going to do it, we're going to do it, and it's not conducive to a prosperous nation. And I feel like the real prosperity for the nation comes when people get together and act within their communities and not for the nation collectively on a federal level.
So this is the argument that your vote matters more locally than nationally.
Yes and no.
Okay. All right. I hear that. We're at the point where we're about to have to take a break. Let's go ahead and take the break, and then we'll get to the line. Miss Parker, I see you on the line, and so please sit tight, and we'll go ahead and take this break. When we come back, we'll get to the call.
WBOK 1230 AM New Orleans, home of the reality check, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden says the Secret Service needs more help. His comments come a day after the apparent second attempt on former President Trump's life. When asked what kind of help he felt the Secret Service needed, Biden said more personnel. Calls to poison control centers about children drinking energy drinks are up 20%. Data now out shows there were more than 2,800 calls in 2023. The Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals has ruled that the district can be held accountable for substandard homes bought through government programs. 6 black female low to moderate income home buyers sued the city and developers after discovering serious issues like foundational cracks and mold in homes purchased through the House Purchase Assistance Program. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Celebrating hardworking teachers of New Orleans Public Schools is what we do best. Join New Schools for New Orleans, Allstate, Sugar Bowl, and Interstate New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards Gala. If you want to check out the awardees and the schools where they teach at, please visit Noeta, Noeta.org. You can also purchase tickets to the gala via the website too. Let's send these teachers some love for all the hard work they do with our students.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
We need you to be part and parcel of wrestling with this corporate duopoly, this two-party system that impedes, it gets in the way of the unleashing of the kind of policies of abolishing poverty and homelessness, of dealing with working wages, cutting back on militarism, and most importantly, trying to ensure that the best of who we are as a people can be more manifest, can be more concrete, because the crisis is real and these catastrophes are bombarding us. Please, come join us.
All right. And so thank you all for joining us today on WBOK. That was a short clip of a commercial by Cornel West. He is the another candidate who is also running for office. I'm not going to say the third party because, I mean, the Green Party is out there too. Like, we actually do have more than 2 parties. Why don't we consider the other parties to be actually viable? Is it us? Is it them? Right? Like, what's happening there? Why do we consider we have to do the less of 2 evils?
I think it's honestly, and this word right here, brainwashing. And I mean, it sounds so sci-fi-ish, right? Like, oh, there's the conspiracy guy with the brainwashing. But I really honestly mean like brainwashing. Like, not you had a dome or a metal thing on your head and
the little tin hat.
Yeah, little tin hat, and they zapping you. I don't mean like that. I mean like literally years and years and decades and generations of being taught one thing about politics when that wasn't the full scope of it.
Now, look, I could go in deeper. I told you we could do conspiracy theory because Gerard Stevens isn't here today. Gerard isn't here today. So we could go into conspiracy theory. Also, let me say, there's a conspiracy theory that the CIA came up with the term conspiracy theory.
Oh, that's real.
So, it's all right.
That's COINTELPRO.
That's real, but that's the thing. Conspiracy theory is real. So
right. Which means like how deep does the rabbit hole go?
Like, exactly.
I mean, like, is there a point where you say, ha, there it is. And then you'd be like, oh, but no, peel that layer back too, because then it goes even deeper.
Okay, I'm with that. Gerard is probably listening, going crazy in his car right now, but it's okay. We'll talk to him tomorrow when he gets back. Okay. Now, you may have heard a stray voice come in. I want to make sure I properly introduce one of my esteemed colleagues to my right. Okay, this is Dr. Tariq Richardson. Okay, he's joining us from Xavier University in the African American and Diaspora Studies Department. Okay, so Dr. Richardson, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you. So the idea of brainwashing, it's funny because when you look at what's going on, it's not even as deep as people sending radio waves in your head or anything like that. Think about the language that we have when it comes terms to our elections. People say a vote not for our politician, either that's Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and now Kamala Harris. If you don't vote for them, that is a vote for Donald Trump, right?
Mhm.
They've said that for the last 3 elections.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have a candidate like Cornel West, who may align closer with what we want as young voters, as people of color, as Black people, people of African descent, they're saying if you vote for Cornel West, you might as well be voting for Donald Trump,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the reality is people are afraid of that alternative. So they said, maybe I don't want to voice my interests because my interest is going to inadvertently lead to this other individual succeeding.
But I was talking with Caleb on the break, and he had to run the class. Okay, so we wish him Godspeed and good luck inside of his courses. Okay, I heard he has difficult professors like me, right? But we wish him Godspeed as he goes to his classes. Okay, but a few words that he left with me was, he said, to vote for the third party candidate, it is actually voting for your passions. But he said we have to vote for strategy. So earlier he called voting a chess move, right? And so we have to be strategic about it. It can't just be that we actually vote for the person who aligns with our personal politics. Is that the debacle that we're in? I think that's the word you was looking for.
That's what I was looking for.
Is that the debacle that we're in? Okay, so we have 2 callers on the line. Let's go ahead to Ms. Parker Brown. Ms. Brown, go ahead and let us know your thoughts about it. What do you think? Are we in a debacle?
Yes, we are. But most importantly, Caleb, I want to, just commend you, young people, for having this discussion and this real serious conversation. I just really appreciate that you all are educating yourself and that you're not falling for, you said it earlier, the less of the 2 evils. And, I just want to, recommend, a very important, I don't know if it's a video out there on YouTube. And I recommend that you guys go and, look at this video on Malcolm X, and the name of it is The Ballot or the Bullet.
Mm-hmm.
And you might already be familiar with it, but study it, and have, conversations in regard to the discussion, in that whole entire speech, because it's just time for us to realize that, it's been a shell game. It's been a mind game. Government means governing our minds, controlling us, brainwashing us, all of that. It's time to, for this generation, which is your opportunity to really, change the world. Mm-hmm. And I think we can do it in this trial. So I just wanted to say that. And then one more thing that's very important. You guys talked about it earlier. It is important for you to vote, but it is also important for you to own your vote. Get something for your vote. Mm-hmm. Don't just be afraid to vote because of the fact that you got to make a choice between the lesser of the 2 evils. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Mm-hmm. That's insanity. We've been doing it for too long, and it's helping us lose. And then also I want you guys to look up the Uhuru 3. Uhuru means freedom. Look up that trial that just took place in Florida in regards to our freedom of speech and speaking up for ourselves, for our own self-determination, our own liberation, our own reparation. What will happen to you when you do that? And in this trial, you will find out the information that, you know, it's an all-out war against us for speaking up for what we feel is rightfully belong to us and what we feel that we should say about what our government have done to us in the past. We're under attack. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brown. I really appreciate you giving us a call and sharing that with us. I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about Cornel West's campaign, because I just played the clip and we're talking about just being uprooted from the two dual party system, or the way we think of the dual party system, right? And people who it is that are going to speak to our passions. You said we have to get something for our vote. Now, this is not me endorsing Cornel West. I want to make sure I say that. But I do want for us to be able to talk about third-party options. One of my personal heroes, Malik Rahim, ran as a third-party Green Party candidate twice inside of this city for office. And I spoke to him and I asked him about that, right? Like, why is it that third parties should run anyway when people are always going to say vote Democrat or Republican? And he said it's important to have certain issues on the table and for us to at least be able to challenge those other parties so that they feel like they have to almost like absorb some of those principles into their platform, right? You're going to have to see me if you want to run against me. Right. So I spoke to him about it. That's what he said. Now, the question is the Democratic and Republican Party going to have to be responsive to Cornel West and like his platform, the Green Party, Stein, and all of these other people who are running? Like, are they going to have to be responsive to that? Or are we at the point where we truly believe they don't have a chance? It's just going to be a two-party system.
Well, honestly, they have to. If you look at that last debate that Kamala Harris had against Donald Trump, all of her talking points were conservative talking points. She hardly ever said anything that aligns with the progressive agenda. So if she doesn't absorb some of those ideas, some of those talking points, she is going to lose a substantial number of people who don't buy into this rhetoric that they have to vote for her. And so if people realize that they have the options and that there's other possibilities, the Democratic Party is going to lose a huge number of people in the next, maybe not this cycle, but the next coming elections. We're going to see a drop-off of progressive voters looking more seriously at third party or even creating their own progressive party separate from the Democratic Party.
Okay, so this makes me want to go back to this poll that I saw. Okay, so this poll is posted by Cornel West. And I want to speak more about polls with you because we're both professors. Because Trump is saying that he saw polls where he's going to win, right? And that he saw polls that said he won the debate. And that he's starting to gain grounds over Kamala. And that that he beat her so badly that he doesn't want to have a second debate.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But
he has the numbers in the polls, though.
Yeah, let's look at the polls.
Okay.
But I have a problem with polls because I could put a poll together to say the sky is green if I needed to.
Okay, so
all I have to do is call the right people, ask the right people the right questions, and there's my poll saying the sky is not blue, it's green.
Okay, now I'm on that bandwagon, right? I just want to get paid to produce a poll. I promise you I do. Okay, I just want people to know I'm in the business of consulting. Now, the way that I consider that these polls are going, because I've seen them, right? And I've noticed over the years, the polls will say something like, okay, now this is not a real poll, but it might be. Check your facts, okay? It'll say, all right, the polls show 51% Harris, 49% Trump, with a plus or minus margin of error of 2. Okay, that means anybody could win, right? Yeah. When I say the plus or the minus is 2 points, and I put them about 2 points away from each other, if it comes out either way, my poll is still right.
Right, you're like, it could be anyone.
Okay. Now, that's the way that I've been seeing the polls come out lately, and I would like for other people to pay attention to that. Okay, now I'm looking at this poll, though. This is from Suffolk University and USA Today. They released the poll August 2024, and they have Cornel West coming in at 23%. They have Kamala Harris coming in at 33%. And Donald Trump at 14%. So in this poll, they have Cornel West as almost double Donald Trump. And to me, that was kind of alarming. I wasn't thinking about Cornel West as being a serious contender. And maybe that might be more of my brainwashing. Also, I've heard people say that he's receiving Republican support and money. So are we going to go with the idea that he could be detracting from the Democratic vote by running? Or is he trying to get his issues out there? Or is he a serious contender?
I would think that we'd have to consider him a serious contender, especially if those numbers are correct. But even without that, the fact that people aren't taking third-party candidates seriously shows a flawed issue with our democracy. Right, that we assume that just because you haven't been endorsed by the DNC or the RNC, that you aren't valid.
Right.
So, I mean, again, look at the policies. People shouldn't be voting based on party lines, based on color, right? We're talking about color all the time, but we're talking about blue and red here.
Right.
Right. So just because something's blue doesn't mean that it's true.
Ooh, hold up. Is that a bar? Hold up. If it just because it's blue don't mean that it's true. Okay, I heard that.
Yeah, so we need to seriously look at the policies, look at the agendas, and say, what do we want our future to align with?
Okay, so when you say look at the policies, so then I pulled up his platform. Now, again, this is not me saying that he should win. I just think that is so interesting because I feel like we should talk more about third-party stuff. I'm not going to lie. I'm showing my hand there. I do think that we should talk more because at least it puts the issues on the table that you want to see. When Caleb came in, he said that a lot of young people, and I mean, we're young people in this too as well, right? We don't like to see the support for Israel. I mean, especially because our students and people who are political activists on campus have all decided that's not where we want for the country to go. And yet, and still, we don't see responsiveness to that, or at least it feels like this kind of double-handed thing, right? So I went and I just pulled it up. I said, well, what is our good esteemed colleague, Brother Cornel West, what is he talking about? And as I pull it up, okay, I'm going to just say a few. Black maternal justice, child justice, disability justice, economic education justice, elder justice, environmental justice, gender justice, global, gun violence, health justice. Everything on there is justice. Immigration justice, LGBTQIA+ justice, racial, transformative, voter, and worker justice. He's talking about raising the minimum wage, abolishing homelessness. And I mean, it's the kind of thing where people say, okay, well, how could you do all of these things? But at least he's putting forth on the platform that those are the things that he wishes to do. Whereas what Caleb said, and I keep raising him because we're tagging into the young voice, is that the Democratic Party is pandering to these moderate Democrats or trying to get swing voters by taking up this kind of conservative edge. And that it's moved the Democratic Party over into these conservative politics to snatch those people up. And I think part of the danger there too is then are they going to pander to those people once they're in office? Are they just trying to get these votes? Or is that steering the Democratic Party so that they are centered at the middle of what you would consider far left and far right politics, which might be a little bit more inefficient?
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. As the right is going further to the right and the Democrats continue to try to be moderate and find the middle ground, that means the DNC is shifting towards the right. For example, during the debate, Kamala Harris was adamant about not banning fracking.
Right, she was.
She should ban fracking.
Yes.
We have extensive research on how that's detrimental to the environment. The other issue, though, is when we're talking about politics, it's never really about morality, what's right and what's wrong. It's always about power. And so, and money is power too. And so when we're talking about the moderates, we're talking about the people who support these moderate policies, or even these policies that progressives might have a problem with. Those are the policies that oftentimes benefit the social and economic elite of this country, right? There's a reason why Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are able to raise so much money. And I don't know the numbers, but I would assume that Cornel West doesn't have the same endowment or the same level of financial backing that they do. On top of this, when you talk about international policies, right, you have to talk about not only business owners and stakeholders, but you also have to talk about other nations' interest, right? So when we talk about, the issues in the Middle East with Israel and Palestine, for us, we see it as a moral issue. For them, it's a checkers game of real politics, right? They're playing with people's lives and playing with our taxpayer money. So I think for us, we can have these concerns, right? And especially in New Orleans. New Orleans, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but New Orleans has the largest population of Palestinian people in the country.
Oh, wow.
Period. Right. And for us as Black folks, I think this issue is multifaceted because we see ourselves in the plight of the Palestinians, but we also see our history in the history of the Hebrew people, the Jewish folks. So I think for us, we need to be very clear on what we actually believe in, and we need to put the pressure on our candidates, right? Because if we are allowing them to drag us along, we're going to be dragged along in some places that we're not comfortable with.
Oh, that's really good. Okay, I see that we have P-Town on the phone. P-Town, we're going to get to you, but first we got to take a break. I promise I'll get to you when we get back. And also we have a good brother, Aaron, on the phone as well. So you all sit tight. We're going to go to these messages and we'll be right back.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor. We're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation. Join Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams monthly as she shares district updates, celebrates schools, scholars, and more. Tune in every fourth Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Greetings, WBOK family. This is Jason Clark, host of United Way and You. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 12 p.m. when we'll be speaking with Melanie Richardson, co-founder and executive director of Training Grounds, a United Way funded partner. The topic will be the We Play, We Connect Family Resource Hub. Please tune in if you're able. Until then, we only have one life to live, so live united.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Hey, have you heard the news? First Pilgrims Baptist Church is now on WBOK 1230 a.m. Tune in every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. to hear Pastor Eugene Mitchell give you the inspiration you need for the week ahead. That's every Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. only on WBOK 1230 a.m.
Oh, yeah. Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 a.m.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
All right, people, we are back. It's Dr. Shepard here today on the Reality Check, the classroom edition. Okay, we're wishing Gerard Stevens a safe return back to New Orleans. We have a few callers who've been holding on, being very patient on the phone. Let's go ahead and get to P-Town. P-Town, I know you got something good to weigh in on this whole two-party, third-party, fourth, fifth-party system. Okay, what you got?
Hey, Doc. Hey, everyone that's at the studio, Jazz, and your guests. How y'all doing?
We doing just fine. How are you?
I can't complain. Just trying to get a little work done. So look here, you guys. After Obama, let me just be honest. After Obama, I was done with the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? And so I changed to independence. And on the last election, I didn't vote for either one. And on this election, I won't be voting for either one of those folks. And I didn't vote for either one of those folks in 2016. Or Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. The whole thing is a machine. The whole democratic system in America, the whole election system is a system, it's a machine, and it does not help the black community. And at this point, the system is getting so rigged, it's not helping Americans. It's not helping Americans. When I look at the border situation, no matter what nobody say, I do construction. No matter what no one says out here, when I look at the border situation, it looks to me like they're replacing us for cheaper labor, and they're saying and they're propagating that we don't want to do this work. That's not true. We're not going to do this work, you understand, and make a wage that we can't support our families with. You understand? Well, those folks are coming there, 5, 6, 7, 8 people for $6,000 and do a job where we may come there with 2 or 3 people, you understand, knowing that we have to carry insurance, knowing that we have to carry liabilities and stuff like that, knowing that we have to do all of these things. And so our price might be just a little bit more, but we get bumped, we get knocked out of it. When I tried to get a job in Texas, I tried. I'm very skillful in construction. They would not hire me as a black man. I could tell you that. Because going on site after site, I could tell you, it was nothing but Mexicans, or Hispanics, should I say. So the thing about it, this was years ago. This is a long time ago. It's worse now. You understand? So the whole propagating thing is they always want to say, even black people now say this, I'm in construction, that we don't want to work. I work every goddamn day. And all my friends do that's in construction, brothers. We work every day. We get up out of our beds every morning, and we go get it. You understand what I'm saying? But to hear us continue to say this, it's just, we buying into the propaganda. We have to be free thinkers in this country. They have taken the system of education, and instead of making people in this country more free of thinking, they have made people more of brainwash. The whole system of our education system is a brainwashing. And that's why I chose Xavier to go as an undergraduate school.
Come on now,
because I wanted to go to
represent.
HBCU. Huh?
I said represent.
Yeah, I chose Xavier because I wanted to be around people that look like me. And when I was going to Xavier, when I tell you it was fire on that campus, it truly was. It was one of my best experiences in being in school besides high school. And I'm saying all that to say this, you guys. So you say we should vote, you understand, and we should vote for this and vote for that. I vote my own convictions, you guys. I vote my own interests. I vote the things that I care about. Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
I vote for my children's future. I vote for my daughter to be married to a man and bring me some grandkids. You understand what I'm saying? I vote for that.
I hear that, Pete Town, but I got a question. I'm a push back a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna push back a little bit. Mr. Galman called earlier, and he said that Trump is talking about gutting all of the Department of Education and making it so that students can't have student loans, so that the next generation of Black people won't be able to, and not even the next generation, this generation, I mean, if he's to get into office and do some of these Project 2025 goals, they won't be able to secure the same education as Xavier University. Do you feel like that because of the pressing danger that you need to place a vote to make sure that you're pushing back, are you compelled to do the lesser of two evils?
Well, this is the thing. I'm not doing a lesser of, I'm not doing either one of them under any circumstance. But to me, I would prefer Trump over Kamala, and I know a lot of people don't like me saying that. I don't agree with what she pushes. I don't agree with abortions. I don't agree with the gender affirming for young people. I don't believe in same-sex marriage. This is my own personal belief. I live according to what I believe and according to the scripture that I read in my Bible. I don't live according to somebody's opinion of things. This is my conviction. This is me personally. I'm speaking about me, you guys. And I can't vote against what the scripture says. You understand? Now, this is the thing. I looked at Trump agenda 47. I looked at it, looked at Project 25. But we really want to be honest about Project 25. It's really not Trump agenda. And those agendas by the heritage festivals, y'all know it. Y'all intelligent enough to know a lot of that stuff have been put forward by to many presidents, not just Trump. So this is the thing. To me, the Department of Education is horrible. The whole government, everything that the government has its hand in this country is horrible. I don't see why the government is benefiting the people of this country at all. So you say they keep us safe with the military. But yet,
I didn't say
people
that.
like me and you, I'm saying that, rhetorically.
Okay.
I'm not saying that you did. So people like me and you, when I think about it, I think further than American soil. When I think about what they're doing in Niger and the Congos and doing to people, and what they did to Gaddafi and people that look like me and you, this American, these military people that's heading these armies in this country, how they have desecrated and how they have decimated environments and poisoning us. When I think about it, y'all, I'm not happy about America. I'm not even proud of America. I'm ashamed of what this country does to other people throughout this world. And I'm ashamed of what this country has done to Black people to this day, to African American people to this day. That's why I would never pledge allegiance to a flag. I would never say a pledge allegiance. I would never honor anything that this country stands for, because they stand against our people elsewhere. And those people are the people, in my opinion, that are
okay.
And we go take from others and we print money, and it's all going to fall apart right before our very eyes. All the things that we have worked hard for. Our kids do not have a future. My daughter is 16. In the next 10 years, if we keep going like we're going, whether Democrat or Republican, you guys, our kids will not have a future in this country. And we say we're the greatest country in the world, you guys. I don't understand how any Black person can say that. When we look at what they do to our people,
okay, P-Town, I hear you, and I want to go ahead and make sure that we get to the next caller. I hear the concerns that you have, though, and I do want to use them to be able to talk more about, because I hope that you hear me well. I want to make sure that we are interrogating the political options. Okay,
I'm listening, my dear. I'm listening.
Okay, I thank you for calling in. Take care. All right, let's get to the next call. We're going to go ahead to Aaron on the next line. Okay, Aaron, what you got to tell us? about these topics?
How y'all doing?
We doing fine. We doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. First, shouts out to the Fatherhood Roundtable
Yes,
as well
yes.
as the People's Political Party. A lot of what Pete Town was saying, he was right on. I mean, just for an
Agreed.
example, right? We just, well, not just, we getting ready to. It has been 14 election cycles, almost 15 election cycles since Dr. King was assassinated. Let me repeat that. It has been 14, almost 15 election cycles since Dr. King was assassinated. Where has black people progressed within that time? As a matter of fact, we just commemorated the 10-year anniversary of Mike Brown, and yet police shootings are outrageous. But here we constantly spending taxpayers' money supposedly for training and this type of training, but we still getting the same old thing.
Right.
But that ain't what I wanted to say. I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments what the brother was saying. But
Agreed.
as it relates to Cornel West, I would never support Cornel West.
Okay.
Simply because he's no different from W.E.B. Du Bois. And what I don't like about W.E.B. Du Bois was that W.E.B. Du Bois was so jealous of Marcus Garvey, he went he went reported on Marcus Garvey and got him deported from right here in New Orleans, at the port of New Orleans, because he wanted to be Marcus Garvey. He was upset that he couldn't do what Marcus Garvey did. So that Cornel West, when he put his mouth on Brother Steve Coakley, you did the same thing what W.E.B. Du Bois did to Marcus Garvey, straight up. So I'm the type of person. If I mess with Professor Shepard, I'm gonna have a history of messing with her. Meaning, I don't have to pump you and prime you to get you to think that I'm on your side.
Right.
My history is going to reflect that I mess with you, or that I'm a part of what you stand for. Right.
Right.
A lot of these people, they don't have our best interests, and it constantly shows, because your policy is going to dictate to me if you have my best interest, not the rhetoric or the words that you take and use, right? Like some of the leaders that we have within the city right now, or even nationally, we always hear about this one didn't vote, that one didn't vote. All right, why are they not voting? The young people are not voting because we constantly getting more things of style than we get of substance. Every time you want to get something of substance, oh no, you gotta stay in the fight. No, scratch all that. People been voting before me and you even got here, and we still getting the same game, different characters. When we was freed from slavery, we own 1% of 1% of the world's wealth. What is that number today? The same thing. But yet you got people constantly calling this show, always talking about voting. And again, I'm not against the vote. I'm against making it seem like voting is our only way out of our current situation, because if that's the truth, why are we still in the same predicament that some of our ancestors was in? And they always use that same old rhetoric about people die for your vote. You know what? Name 5 of them, and I'll give you one. Medgar Evers. Them other folk, they can't even name. They going to mess around and say Martin Luther King, but Dr. King was not assassinated for your right to vote at all.
I'll add Jimmy Lee Jackson to your
I
list.
like that. I wanted to add him first. I should have did that. But yes, but we got to stop getting with all these cliches things. You want to get bit by the poisonous snake, or you want to get bit by the poisonous scorpion. The outcome going to be the same. So all I'm saying is, I'm sorry, what you said?
I was going to ask you, well, then what's the answer? What is it that needs to be taking place? I feel like we're about to come down to the same place, right? Which, at least for me, I'll say I think that people need to vote, but that voting should be the bare minimum. I think that there's so much other organizing that we need to do on top of that to be able to make politics bend to our own will. And I also think that we need to have platforms outside of politics to make sure that our communities are taken care of. So, but I would ask you, Brother Aaron, what is it that you think needs to be done then?
One of the things, because one solution is not going to solve all the problems, should I say. One thing that needs to be done is that we need to stop treating the symptoms of the problem and treat the problem. If I have a cold, I can't just come. Say it again.
I say, what's the problem?
The problem, one of the problems we have is that we look to other people to do for us what we should have been doing for ourselves. Everything we need for us to succeed is right here in our own backyard. We have our own doctors. We have our own lawyers. We have our own bankers, not banks, bankers. We have our own principals. We have everything we need is right here in our own backyard. We continue to go outside of our yard so we can feel comfortable with other people. We feel like we need them. I'm gonna give you an example. When the pandemic hit, and yes, I say pandemic because that was something that was planned. Pandemic. When that happened, you had so many entrepreneurs who were just at home trying to figure out something to do today. They came up with their own jobs, their own sources of income, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as the so-called pandemic was over with, they fighting and rallying to go back to these white people jobs because they didn't have, well, I'm not going to say they didn't have, but they forgot the confidence and the self-sufficiency it took for them to even become an entrepreneur in the first beginning. We keep on thinking we need other people for our basic survival skills, and we really don't, because in actuality, they need us. Everything they need, they come to us and ask us, what you think about this? What you think about that? You look at every major Fortune 5, whatever, Fortune 500 company they have, it's us that's running the place, but not running the place, if they're not owning the place, if that makes sense. The reason why education is so poor within the city of New Orleans is because they know if they give us, and I kind of stress that word give because we shouldn't be letting them educate us in the beginning. But anyway, the reason why the educational system is so poor, piss poor in New Orleans, because they need ignorant people, and I'm ignorant doesn't simply mean you don't know. I'm not talking about my people. I'm just saying how what they do. They need people to take and run these restaurants, make these beds in some of these hotels, right? Because if they educate us properly, we're going to be the ones that's going to be running these businesses, and some of them are going to be working for us. But to keep that from happening, they have to make sure that the educational system is dumbed down and watered down, because if education is dumbed down and watered down, everything around education, meaning the communities, the schools, the children, and et cetera, is going to be dumbed and watered down too.
Yes.
It's things that we have. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely hear you. You're talking economic independence, educational independence, and I mean, really the cornerstones of Black nationalism, right? And being able to build ourselves up as our own independent nation within a nation. I really appreciate you calling, brother, and I'd like to go ahead and get to these next calls, okay? But thank you for your contribution. And I see you all over Facebook. You'll see me. All right, take care. All right, let's go ahead and get to the next line. Can we go ahead and hit Elmore? Elmore, what you have to say about this topic?
You know, the brother really made me think, because he was raising a lot of labor issues. And well, for the life of me, maybe you have the answer for it, and I don't. I wish you did, but for the life of me, I'm a New Orleanian living all my life and all over the world, basically. And I don't understand how, like in New Orleans, where the motel, hotel, gambling industry, and organized labor is not in those hotels and motels and in those casinos. And for the life of me, what I don't understand, when you look at your major cities of the United States, New York, Chicago, Frisco, just to name a few, I would guarantee you, young lady, if everybody, include myself, if I worked the hotel motel industry, decided to work up the job to govern and everybody else would come down here to keep it from not striking. For the life of me, I mean, what are you scared of? I mean, it seems to me, I don't know if it's intimidation or it's you're afraid you lose your job. I mean, let's face it, the power of the people. I hear Harris say tonight, we the people, right? We are the people, and we have a lot of rights. And we understand how powerful that we are as a people, grassroots folks. I think we could get things done. I don't know if it's education has something to do with understanding how powerful we are, young lady, but it just every time I think about it, it almost gives me sick of the stomach to see the power that we have in the hotel motel industry. Generations of us working in those facilities, and we don't have unions. For the life of me, I don't understand it.
Well, I think that some of those positions just don't provide mobility. I think that there is an issue inside of the pipeline of being able to access the funds to be able to do your independent thing. I mean, the difficulty of having even a bed and breakfast, I don't want to say Airbnb because that's controversial inside this city as well, but the ability to go up against somebody like the Hilton, or I think that that's difficult. Now, I do know a few activists who are talking about doing their own thing and, you know, being able to leverage capital. But I also think that there needs to be other organizing that takes place, and that it does still get back to the point that Brother Aaron raised earlier about, you know, how it is that the educational structure supports low wage earners and ensuring that people don't have certain skills when they get out and that they'll just continue going through the pipeline. I think that there is an education to tourism pipeline that we don't speak enough about, like we speak about the school to prison pipeline as well. But go ahead, Dr. Richardson.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. A lot of this conversation is revolved around labor. And the point I want to raise is we are blaming the wrong people for these labor issues, right? People are like, oh, the Mexicans, the immigrants, the Venezuelans, the Haitians, they're taking our jobs. They aren't taking our jobs. The employers are not hiring our people.
Come on.
Right? Because they're saying, oh, we can pay them $5, right? And they have to pay us minimum wage. That sounds like an abuse of labor, right? So we need to hold those people accountable. And I like your line of thinking that we need to start taking control of our own economic needs, right? We shouldn't have to be dependent on asking for people to hire us and hoping that they hire us because there's other possibilities. Because we know for a fact, if it wasn't for the laws of this country, these people would put us back on the plantations and have us work for free, right? And people are so worried about employment, right? They're like, oh, Donald Trump, all these people have so many employment plans. The last time that we had 100% employment in this country, black employment that is, was enslavement. So we need to be very careful on what our actual issues are, right? Is it jobs? Is it quality jobs? Is it getting paid? And then who is actually to blame for the issues that we have? I like your question. You said, what's the problem? It's not just what's the problem, it's who's the problem.
Okay, I like that. Thank you so much, Elmore, for calling in. We're going to go ahead and head
And I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. We're going to go ahead and head into a break, but I do want to put the question on people's minds about the inadequacies of local governance that we're talking about. I do also want to kind of bring back what you said about they would put us back on plantations. And one of the things that I talk about with my students is I show them an old ballot from 2022 where it talks about doing involuntary servitude on the ballot. So we have to talk about that when we get back maybe. You all sit tight. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hey New Orleans, Tavis Smiley here, inviting you to join me each weekday evening at 7 p.m. right here on WBOK 1230 a.m. for the Tavis Smiley Show. You can expect great guests and getting the answers you need to know. It's the Tavis Smiley Show on our new home in New Orleans, WBOK 1230 a.m.
Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts with over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable. We can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Delgado is a great fit if you're starting your post-high school education, or we can help you advance or change your career. Take a step toward being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Every day, the RTA gets thousands of New Orleanians where they need to be. Whether you're headed downtown, the Ninth Ward, or Algiers, our buses, ferries, and iconic streetcars are going your way. Rolling with the RTA is a smart way to help you save money and the environment. Download the La Pass app today to plan your ride, get real-time arrival information, or make mobile payments. Because the RTA is how New Orleans rolls.
A message from the community scientist. Do you live or work in St. James, St. John, St. Charles, Ascension, Calcasieu, Baton Rouge, or St. Bernard parishes? If so, it's important for you to understand objective information about 1,3-butadiene, volatile organic compounds, methane, and mercury, and how they impact your health and the natural environment. The Community Scientist is a service program of Rise St. James. Learn more at risestjames.org.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
All right, and we're back. We are back. We have a special guest inside of the studio today, Dr. Richardson, and we were just speaking more about voting. At this time, I should go ahead and say, nobody told me this. I had to find out. My dad was reading the paper, but they put our voting event in the Louisiana Weekly. Okay? We have a whole, look, it's most of the paper. They covered our event. Okay, this is by Leah Clark. And she covered our events, showing a little bit more about what it is that we did, why we held the event because of low voter turnout. And she talks about what we said. At the end, she quotes me, okay, saying we would like to see something come out of this conversation, not just talking about it, but being about it. Action, organizing, and mobilizing. And of course, there's other great little quotations from people, from Congressman Carter and some of our students. You know, we had a student, Gabrielle Clay, who said, I feel very uneducated on the candidates as far as what's their plans for their position. It's also kind of discouraging because I feel like these events are the same events that occurred over and over again as far as with civil rights and trying to get young people to vote. And so I just wanted to make sure that we brought it right back to where we started. We started here with student Caleb Wilkes here, discussing more about this kind of youth not really feeling like they understand what's going on, not knowing candidates' platforms, and feeling frustrated that we haven't seen much change in regard to civil rights. Now, I feel as though we've also put before people, though, that the kinds of assaults that are happening on your civil rights means that we could wind up back in slavery. I have raised time and time again on this radio station that in 2022, there was an amendment about involuntary servitude on the ballot. And it asked if you were against involuntary servitude, except in the lawful administration of justice, which it didn't say. What the old language is except if duly convicted of a crime. So with that one amendment, they were trying to figure out, how can we get involuntary servitude without you having to be convicted of a crime? And I think those kinds of questions are not put forward in front of young people's faces so that they understand, no, we're not talking about just the people who died in the past. And I heard Brother Aaron pushing back against that narrative, but really people have died. But also our literal freedom is still on the line. And I don't know if those kinds of conversations have yet gotten across to the young people. I think that they think that these issues are of the past and that there are new ones, not realizing there are new ones and some of these old ones still haven't been settled. Okay. So I see that we have a caller on the line. Let's go ahead to Dion. Dion, what are your thoughts on this matter? Dion? Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll come back. Dion, give us a call if you have any thoughts on that issue. Okay, but we've had a lot of changes that are coming through the pipeline that really impact us locally. So on the Louisiana level, at least for us in education, they've had some important changes. Book bans, placing the 10 Commandments inside of classrooms, affirmative action being struck down. And we also had, they banned critical race theory being taught to grades K through 12. Now, that's kind of crazy, right? But I mean, I could tell you the reasons why I think it's crazy. Okay, Dr. Richardson, I could go off. But I'm going to allow you to go ahead and go off. What are your thoughts about this kind of conservative landscape in education? And what does it mean for us moving forward?
So it means a lot of things. But for me, whenever people talk about banning critical race theory, it's always very funny because no one teaches critical race theory. Actually, I didn't teach about critical race theory until it got into the news. And I was asking my students, like, do y'all know what critical race theory is? And like, no, we don't know what it is.
Right.
Critical race theory, all it is it's a theory, evolves out of the legal system in the 1970s and 80s, where they're looking at civil rights legislation and they're saying, why haven't we have progress in our ability to maneuver as full citizens of this country despite civil rights legislation being passed?
Mm-hmm.
So what critical race theory basically says is that we are looking at how systems and how ways of life in this country, every facet of life in this country, has been implicated by racism.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No one really teaches that at this point because it's almost assumed, right? Like we, at this point, can study anything and it's going to come up. So when they're talking about banning critical race theory, what they really mean is banning anything that's critical of these systems, anything critical of the country, anything critical of our history, right? And so the only way to do that is to actually attack and to ban Black history, to ban our stories, our leaders, right? Because our leaders, they're the ones who are criticizing these systems. So if you're talking about taking this out of K through 12, how can you talk about Martin Luther King Jr., right? But not even our radical leaders, but how can you talk about someone like Martin Luther King Jr. or Malcolm X or Frederick Douglass or Ida B. Wells, right? Or Sojourner. We can go across the whole board. They all were criticizing the same set of institutions.
Yes.
Which means that basically what we're talking about, because this doesn't actually affect private schools. Private schools can teach whatever they want, right?
I wonder if this affects the charter school system, because that's actually what we have in the city, right? That odd commingling between public and private funds.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good question as well.
It depends on where the money comes from, because if they're getting federal funds, that means if they break federal law, they aren't gaining access to those funds, right? So what this is, it's actually an attack on federal funded education, right? Because if you go and teach the things you want to teach, you are at risk of putting your entire institution at jeopardy, right? But private institutions where they can teach about whatever are fine. And then private institutions are funded by and large by middle class, or when we're talking about places like Louisiana, Philadelphia, whatever, those are being funded by middle class folks who want to teach their children certain things.
Okay, so let's see. Governor Jeff Landry said, this executive order is a much needed sigh of relief for parents and students across our states, especially as students are heading back to school. He released this in August. Teaching children that they are currently or destined to be oppressed or to be an oppressor based on their race and origin is wrong and has no place in our Louisiana classrooms, he said. I am confident that under Dr. Brumley's leadership, our education system will continue to head in the right direction, prioritizing American values and common sense teachings. is what he said. Is that so?
No, I mean, and look, American values. What are the? I mean, so we can talk about American values: freedom, justice, liberty. Right.
Right.
I'm coming from Philadelphia. Right. That's the birthplace of these American values, where they signed the Declaration of Independence.
Mm.
We in Philadelphia, and we talk about that on here too. The people who signed that Declaration of Independence did not live American values. Half of those people were enslavers. They actively stood in the way of people achieving the pursuit of happiness, achieving true freedom, right? So how can we even celebrate American values if we have a difficult conversation to be had about how do we get here to gain access to those American values?
You said a difficult conversation. Do you think that conversation is to be had? We're right here at this pivotal moment of selecting the president. And I want to even say, even at the voting event, I said, well, what about reparations, right?
Mhm.
I tried to put something on the table that at least makes us start to interrogate this very difficult history, because right now they're stepping on the toes of it. So when is going to be our time to really unpack, have the difficult conversation so that we can move forward? Is there a time for that?
I mean, the time has been, people have been talking about reparations since 1865.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just thinking about, I'm trying to bring it back to Louisiana, right? You have Queen Mother Moore, Audley Moore from New Iberia, right?
Mhm.
She was spearheading the reparations movement for decades. And her constituents, they put forward, they said, look at what we've done for this country. Look how we built the South. Matter of fact, give us the South. That's how you
Yeah.
get the Republic of New Africa.
Yes.
Right? So it is a difficult country, because then at that point, when you start to talk about the amount of wealth that is needed, that is owed to the Black community, you're really talking about nation building at that point.
Mhm.
And then you have to have a conversation. Is that something that people are even ready for?
Is that something people are ready for?
I mean, based on the conversation I've been hearing, in the last few years, I don't know.
What makes you so doubtful? Or what makes it at this level of like, yes, but no?
I mean, I think so many people are married to these institutions, married to these talking points that stem from the same place of our oppression. And people aren't willing to cut that umbilical cord.
This is very difficult.
See, it is a difficult conversation.
It really is, because, well, at least from my standpoint, I think that it's something that needs to be had, right? And I think that the way you frame it, it really touches back to what we've already discussed, which is, I mean, go ahead and cast the vote, right? But there's so much more work that needs to be done, right? I have told students before, voting is going in the booth and pressing the buttons and walking out, right? And hoping that those people stand true to those values. There can be said to do more accountability, to hold politicians accountable while they're in office, to have check-ins with them, to make sure that they appeal to what it is that is the platform of the people who put them in office. Like, there's more work to be done there, right? Keeping people steadily accountable. But even outside of that, there's a lot of other work that has to be done. And so I feel like it's difficult to, at least for me, to consider voting to take up so much space, when really it should just be, I don't want to go back to say it's your duty, because that turns people off. But really, it should just be your duty, and you continue going on, right? The controversial thing isn't casting the vote. The controversial thing is doing the work outside of the votes, right? And I feel like that's where this conversation actually goes.
Yeah, nobody voted for our freedom, right? But voting doesn't hurt you. No one voted to take away our freedom. Or we didn't vote to take away freedom. It's not possible. Actually, it could be possible, as long as we consistently just do our due diligence.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't go above and beyond.
Yeah, I mean, just don't put your hopes in that the ballot is going to give us our freedom, give us everything we want. As you said, there's other aspects of life that we need to address.
Mm-hmm.
The way I see voting is that it keeps these oppressive forces at bay, right? Because they can do whatever they want through the legal process. So if we give it pushback, right, we know that we're not going to get reparations probably this this upcoming year or next year. But if we are putting ourselves in a good position to have these conversations, then maybe we can actually start to look at having tangible outcomes rather than just hoping that by putting someone in office, these things are going to happen.
Okay, I definitely agree with that. And I want to get a little bit more into you then and your research and what it is that you bring to the table. So if we're talking about like restrictive Louisiana education, like that's one thing. But where is your heart in terms of Black studies? What are the pressing questions and answers that you have for Black people?
So first and foremost, I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm an Africologist and an Afrocentrist. So whenever I look at our issues here, we always have to connect them to what's happening outside of the American context. What are other Black communities going through? And oftentimes you'll see that our issues are more similar than they are dissimilar.
Yeah.
So my research, I'm teaching a class right now called Transatlantic Blackness. At first, I wasn't really that excited about the terminology, but I played with the idea a little bit. And I'm going to probably expand on that class for a publication that's coming up in a book that's about comparative analyses, right? So looking at different Black communities, different African descendant communities, and what are our experiences? What are our cultural similarities? And what are the solutions to our common issues? So in part, that's what I'm doing. But my research, you said, like, where's my heart? My focus is actually East Africa. So I'm looking at the Swahili coast, looking at really identity and how people think about their Africanity, the quality of being Black, the quality of being African, and how they relate to the people around them, other Bantu people.
Oh, you said so much, and you're making me think through the maybe smaller pushback that we see about people protesting about what's happening in Congo, right? Protesting what's happening in the Sudan. Do you have any thoughts about, if we're talking about connecting struggles and picking presidents and creating political platforms, do you have any thoughts about what that means for us in those kind of also war-torn contexts? As Black people, how should our politics be directed around those ideas or those happenings?
Well, I mean, both of those issues they're not directly tied just to the United States, but the United States and our policies have a role in what's going on in Congo, have a role in the political situation in Sudan, because Sudan is a proxy war between the West and Russia, right? And so we also need to be aware of how our leaders, our businesses, our policies are not just affecting us, but affecting people outside of the United States. For example, I know everyone loves Teslas. They love Elon Musk's cars, but the technology that is used to develop those cars is causing the loss of millions of lives, right? Or affecting millions of lives, right? They actually said it costs more to produce that car than it is just to go and refurbish an old car, right? So we need to be a little bit more conscious about our consumerism, about our materialism. And because that's not just affecting us, that's affecting everybody. And if you ask young voters today, I'm sure the article says that the number one issue that they have is the environment, is global warming, right? And when you talk about what's happening in the Congo, Congo is one of the last battlegrounds for climate change, right? Congo, especially the Congo River Basin, I don't want to go too far into this, but the Congo River Basin is such an important geological feature to our world and maintaining the balance of like our world's climate, that if that environment is damaged and threatened more so than it already is, we are talking about irreversible damage to the world's climate, right? And so that's not even talking about life just in Congo. That's talking about everybody on the face of this planet.
Okay. I really appreciate you explaining more and making these kind of connections between us and what's happening in Africa now. I think sometimes when we talk about Pan-Africanism, it can get caught up in idealism as opposed to the struggles that are taking place right now. I want to go ahead and get to the caller. James, I see you on the phone. What kind of contributions do you have to this conversation? Thank you for calling.
My contribution is the fact that you guys are talking about it is amazing to me. and I just wanted to call in because it's so radio silent. Seems like the opinions are. I think we're all just fascinated in what you guys actually have to say. The educational opportunity in this conversation is great, and I thank you guys for it. The stark contrast of African colonialism to American forced servitude, indentured servitude is crazy, and I look forward to hear more. I just wanted to say kudos to you guys. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James, for calling in. I really appreciate that. Right on. Okay, let's go ahead and get over to Joe. Joe, thank you for calling in. What contributions do you have for this conversation?
Well, I had a question since you were talking Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
I wanted to know his views on what's going on in Burkina Faso, and how do he view the current captain that the people like, Ibrahim Traoré. Hello?
Yeah, okay, okay. We wasn't sure if that was a full stop or not. Okay.
Yeah, that's they call him President Traoré.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're talking about what's happening in West Africa. It's complicated because it's going on right now, so it's hard to see the full picture. But a lot of the actions that are happening over there are very promising, right? For the last 2-3 decades, I mean, even we can go back to Barack Obama's administration, right, with the creation of AFRICOM. We're seeing Africa continuously being scrambled upon, right? People continuously looking at Africa as places to put their military bases for strategic purposes that don't benefit African people. What you see in West Africa, right, with Niger and the Sahel nations, or Niger and the Sahel nations, you're seeing African people take their lands back. They're saying we don't need to have we don't need the French army. Why is the French here, right?
Right. The French recently, my one thing is the French recently moved gunboats in there. And, I don't.
Yeah, that's like us having English military bases in Boston, right? That would be unheard of. Why are the British still here? We beat you. Leave. Right. So it's the same thing in African nations. Why would you still have your colonial oppressor station troops in your nation?
Yeah.
Right.
So correct.
So while West Africa, and then the interesting thing is when you have some of these West African Sahel nations making this stand, you have other nations standing on the side of the former colonizers and saying, we won't deal with you unless you open up your ports, unless you bring the French and the English back, right? That sounds like neocolonialism to me.
It is. It's another form of neocolonialism.
But then going back to us, right? When you talk about the African-American experience, that is a colonial experience, right? We oftentimes don't think about that, but the United States is a colony, or was a colony, right?
You're getting into my research, but that's because no. That's because it all bridges each other, right?
We're connected.
That's how true it is. That's how true it is.
Yeah, so they pushed out the West, and when they say the West, they say the French and the U.S. And they, wanted their military out of there. So they got those out of there. I mean, I don't know how America's not taking it too well, because I've seen some conferences where the guys will say, we need Africa. They want Africa. They come out just like blatantly like that. And they're determined to take Africa and its resources.
Yeah.
And that's what they want out of that, those resources.
Does that mean that we need to be more vocal about this on our end?
Definitely. That's the thing. That's the reason I called. Right. Because I don't hear nothing. And I don't hear nothing about, Ibrahim Traoré and the things that he's doing. The people will die for him. They'll lay their life down right now for him. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for calling in. We're going to get to some of the other calls, but I appreciate you expressing that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and get over to Dion. Dion, go ahead. We heard from you already, right, Dion?
Well, I had to hang up, but I just had to call back. How y'all doing today?
Well, thank you for calling us back. We're doing fine.
Good. This is such a wonderful conversation, and I'm learning so much. To just go back maybe 30, 45 minutes ago, one of the brothers called in about basically, controlling our own and having our own resources and looking in our own own yards. My wife and I, we made a conscious decision when she was expecting our first child to homeschool.
Yes.
And we're not talking about replacing everything, and we know that everybody can't homeschool. We understand that. But, we have 6 children. We have 3 that are in college, and the younger 3, they're almost college age. And, we made a conscious decision to do that. And by doing that, we found that in New Orleans, there are homeschool schools, Afrocentric schools, co-op. There are all these different resources that we can tap into. For example, we had a group of children, not just our children, but we reached out to other families, and there were children that were interested in engineering. So parents got together, pooled their resources together, and paid an instructor from Tuskegee. He had to be home during the summertime, and had an engineering class. There are so many different ways that we can go about controlling information, controlling knowledge, controlling what we feed our children. And so I just want to just put it out there that homeschooling, being cooperative as far as putting together resources to school to educate our children, to pull other families and other children in. My wife did a lot of training with parents in the city to just teach them this is how you go about creating your own curriculums. There are curriculums out there, but the curriculum that she put together is called Afro-Classical. So you have the classical education, but with an African, intentional twist to it. And a big part of that is learning logic. What's a red herring? You got Latin that's included in that, but I have a child that's fluent in Mandarin now. Another child is fluent in Korean now. My oldest daughter just graduated with a degree in architecture, because we want to eventually build crawls. We want to build communities for our family and then extend it outward. And so our children, my oldest son, his name is Sundiata. He is a pre-med major. He wants to go into naturopathic medicine.
Beautiful.
And so we've done these things intentionally to let our children know that this is not just for you all, but it's for the community. And we want to leave a legacy for our family and for our children. And so we come from a great people. We come from a highly intelligent, highly innovative people.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate at times that we don't realize that. And so, what I've just heard today on the show, I'm going to look a lot more into what's been going on, especially in West Africa. There's a lot I just don't know, but man, it's been refreshing, listening to you all and getting information. And this is information that I could bring back to my children. And who knows what this information will do to spark them to say, hey, we need to go to the motherland and, do some things. And so this has been a blessing. This has been great.
Okay, thank you so much, Dion, for calling. And look, leave your information with Jazz, because I'd like to talk to you more about this homeschooling thing. I think that we're having, and as a matter of fact, I was talking with the elected official who said that we are starting to have a lot more Black homeschoolers.
Definitely.
An expansion. Definitely. And it goes to show you how frustrated people have been with the educational system. But it goes more along with, as we said, Black nationalism and educational independence. So I thank you so much for that call. And please leave your information with Jazz.
Okay, I sure will.
Okay, let's go ahead and we are going to go ahead and take a break. Okay, we're going to take the next call. Okay, let's go ahead
take your break. Take your break. Hey, man.
George, because I know you got a lot that you want to say, don't you?
Not really. I just don't want to be cut off by no commercial.
Okay, you still might wind up cut off by the commercial, but they telling us to go ahead and take the call. So what you got to say?
All right, I'm going to
George?
go on, Jazz. You know you ain't right, bro. But anyway... I'm enjoying the show thoroughly. I can tell you that, because I love listening when conversations from your callers can make me go up and down the ladder, and then you guys bring me back down to the ground. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because y'all are grounding. grounding information today.
Oh, thank you.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm watching y'all on Facebook. What's going on? So, but anyway, when Brother Galman called in earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he made a real solid piece of information that should be really adhered to. Yes. When he said, look, we need to reach out to those HBCUs and get them young people invited in and incorporated because they are a part of the process. And what was kind of diluted in that was it's everybody's process. No, it is everybody's process. But if you bring in the children who are seeking knowledge to go out and empower others to seek knowledge, then you create a river from a stream. And that's how it consistently works. We cannot not do that. Mm-hmm. Other question I had was, why are we still calling ourselves African? With that brother sitting there with all this knowledge, please tell me why we still use the oppressor's name for ourselves, which is oppression in and of itself. Because with my little meager research I've done, I cannot find anywhere in everything that says we had other names that were much more effective to who we are as a people, and African is not it.
Okay, George, I want to ask you this question. Before Dr. Richardson answers, I want to ask you this question. Is it because that you think that you found a better term for us? Like, is this about to be a gotcha moment? Is there something that you're holding back that you think is a better descriptive term before he answers?
You know, and it's not I got you moment. I'm not trying to go down that realm.
Okay.
Because a little bit of information that I have been exposed to, we have experienced that there are other names that were more apt to who we were before boundaries were created. Mm-hmm. And so, and part of me in thinking the oppressive mentality that we hold on to is we keep calling ourselves a name given to us by somebody else that's not truly who we are.
Okay. All right. I got you. I think that this might be light work. Dr. Richardson?
Yeah. So the word African, you're right. We're not quite sure where it comes from. It might not be an African word. It might come from the Afar people. It might refer to, we know for a fact, though, that the Romans used this term to describe a certain part of Africa that we can now call Libya. However, when we talk about this idea of solidarity amongst people of who are identified as Black, the word African is something that we can all identify with. And on top of that, the other terms that I've seen people put forth, such as Abu Kabelan, are equally un-African. Well, one is ahistorical, and then two is just as un-African as Africa is. What African people called themselves before, as you said, these colonial powers such as the English, the French, and before them, even the Romans and the Greeks came and put on Africa. You have African people describing themselves not as Black people, not as African people, but just as the people. Right, so that's where you actually get, you know what I'm saying. So that's where you get the word Bantu.
The people. There we go, baby.
Because at first the only people in the world were Black folks. So why would we call ourselves anything else? So
exactly.
So that's where the word Bantu actually comes from. The word Bantu just means the people, and that's where the philosophy of Ubuntu is the philosophy of the people. Right.
Man, did you just feel the power in what you said? I know every person on the radio station just heard you say the people.
Yes.
That's right.
Come on now.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Thank you so
much. So we need to quit calling ourselves African, and we need to just start speaking as the people.
Yes. I hear that.
Before I get off this radio show today, I got to say this. Gerard G. Man Stevens ain't here, but he proudly represented Dr. Shepard in the house and all your hosts and co-hosts on, look here, the Reality Check on WBOK with my man Jazz on the backboard. Y'all keep doing what you do. You know I love you people.
Yes, love you too. Thank you, George. And with that, we'll go ahead to break. Okay, we'll be right back in just a moment. Y'all stay tuned.
The people.
12:30 a.m. New Orleans. Home of the Reality Check. Weekdays 1 to 4 p.m.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. President Biden says there's no place for political violence in America after there was another alleged attempt on former President Trump's life. Speaking at the National HBCU Week conference in Philadelphia, Biden said America has suffered too many times from violence against political leaders, and it does nothing but create more problems. This comes after a man allegedly tried to assassinate Trump while he was playing golf on Sunday in Florida. The man accused of apparently trying to kill former President Trump in Florida is making his first court appearance. Ryan Ruth appeared in shackles in a federal courthouse in West Palm Beach and was charged with 2 firearm counts. They include possession of a firearm while a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. The Secret Service says the 58-year-old was fired on by an agent who spotted him aiming an AK-47 type rifle at Trump's West Palm Beach golf resort while the former president was golfing. He fled the scene but was soon arrested. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Celebrating hardworking teachers of New Orleans Public Schools is what we do best. Join New Schools for New Orleans, Allstate, Sugar Bowl, and Integer New Orleans in recognizing and celebrating the Teachers of the Year at our 3rd annual New Orleans Excellence in Teaching Awards Gala. If you want to check out the awardees in the schools where they teach at, please visit Noeta, Noeta.org. You can also purchase tickets to the gala via the website too. Let's send these teachers some love for all the hard work they do with our students.
Find us online. Did you know that you can now listen to your favorite show whenever you want? How? Just go to www.wbok1230.com. Click on the Talk tab and select your favorite show. There you'll see your favorite host and the show from each day. And be sure to follow us on Facebook at WBOK1230AM, Instagram at WBOK.1230, and TikTok at WBOK1230AM.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Keep up with NOLA Public Schools through Education Elevation. Join Superintendent Dr. Avis Williams monthly as she shares district updates, celebrates schools, scholars, and more. Tune in every 4th Wednesday at 11:30 a.m.
Greetings, WBOK family. This is Jason Clark, host of United Way and You. Be sure to tune in next Thursday at 12 p.m. when we'll be speaking with Melanie Richardson, co-founder and executive director of Training Grounds, a United Way funded partner. The topic will be the We Play, We Connect Family Resource Hub. Please tune in if you're able. Until then, we only have one life to live, so live united.
Sunday mornings are reserved for a good word on WBOK. This Sunday, be sure to catch Dr. Kevin Stevens Sr., the pastor of Christian Unity Church, for service and a powerful, full, inspiring word. Listen live every Sunday morning right here on WBOK.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Every day, the RTA gets thousands of New Orleanians where they need to be. Whether you're headed downtown, the Ninth Ward, or Algiers, our buses, ferries, and iconic streetcars are going your way. Rolling with the RTA is a smart way to help you save money and the environment. Download the La Pass app today to plan your ride, get real-time arrival information, or make mobile payments. Because the RTA is how New Orleans rolls.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
Governor Landry said he is well aware of the challenges now facing the New Orleans Sewerage and Water Board, but he wants to understand what went wrong during Francine and how to fix it. As Paul Murphy reports, today he couldn't say where the money would come to address the ongoing problems with pumps and power.
Governor Jeff Landry arrived at Armstrong International Airport after a helicopter tour of South Louisiana communities hit by Hurricane Francine. He went straight into a meeting with New Orleans area leaders to discuss the storm's impacts. Landry said he talked with Mayor LaToya Cantrell and New Orleans Sewage and Water Board members about drainage pumps tripping offline and power generation problems during the storm. The fragility of the city's failing drainage system led to increased flooding in the city as the storm hit New Orleans.
How we can recognize where the infrastructure deficiencies are today, because we don't know whether we're going to get another storm tomorrow.
Earlier this year, the SWB's request for an additional $29 million in the state's capital outlay budget was denied by state lawmakers. The money would be used to complete the new power substation now being built to power the pumps in the future. At the time, Governor Landry said he would announce funding improvements for the project. But months later, the utility is still waiting for the money.
It's easy to say, oh, we need $29 million, because this area has received billions of dollars, and the question is, why are we in the same position?
Congressman Troy Carter, who separately toured the hurricane-hit areas with the U.S. Coast Guard on Friday, said he would be petitioning the federal government for funds to help the Sewage and Water Board.
We cannot continue to have these misfires every time we have a natural disaster.
Water Board Executive Director Ghassan Korban said there is a possibility of drawing down federal grants to help complete the power plant.
The structure is a little bit different, where there's a local share that's required to match what the Department of Energy gives us. But it's a much better alternative than not having anything being offered.
We are going to sit down and put those numbers together. I think that is actually important.
In the meantime, the governor said he is working with the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA to find ways to minimize the utility's power problems in the event of another big storm. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
All right, everybody. So we are back, and I wanted to make sure with the reality check that we talked a little bit more about our reality and what we just went through with Hurricane Francine. Okay, so I'll say on my side, I saw a lot of preparation for the storm. I saw a lot of communications. I was inside of the alert system of NOLA Ready, so I got all of their information that they sent out. I saw press conferences on Instagram. It seemed like there was a lot of communication that was taking place. And yet I'll just go ahead and say we saw some failures in areas that we traditionally see. So we saw a lot from Sewage and Water Board beforehand saying that they were going to be ready for the storm. And even before Hurricane Francine hit, the pumping station inside of the lower Ninth Ward, some pumps broke, right? And then we started to see flooding, and they had a few areas that flooded even after you would think that the pumps came back on. So I just wanted to be able to talk about this a little bit. There was a lot of news coverage. I think sometimes the news may have made mountains out of molehills, right? I've seen different commentators and people who were on the scene, deeply recording an inch of flood water, right? And like a tree that might be shaking a little bit. But then we had other areas like Homer that was hit pretty hard. We had some flooding in other areas that got to be a little deep. And that is of concern because that impacts our flood insurance policies, and it affects the people on the ground, some of the same people flooding time and time again. The lack of power. At one point, energy was out of, like I said, almost 500,000 people without power. Wi-Fi was down. My son was going crazy, right? The inability to be on Roblox for him is a life or death situation, right? But how did you all experience the storm? And most importantly, I hate to give Landry credit like this, but he asked an important question. Right? Why are we in the same situation time and time again? And he also posed an important question where he said, what happened to the billions of dollars that were already sent down to New Orleans? And it sounds like he's going to get to the bottom of it. And I am concerned about what that's going to mean. So I feel as though he's targeting a problem, and we may not wind up coming to the same place when it comes to the solution. Okay, Dr. Richardson, how did you fare for the storm? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so I had a bit of flooding. To be honest, so I live in Holly Grove, right? And we usually get flooding during these kind of storms. And this storm, it didn't seem that much worse. But what did affect us, and what kind of got on my nerves, my personal nerves, was that even after the storm, we had issues, right? And we had energy talking about they're going to fix a couple power lines. So we actually had power the day after the storm, but then it was 2 days after, right? It was like on Thursday or Friday. That's when we lost power, right? And so we lost that for a whole day. And so what I see is, like you said, we have systems in place, we have the institutions in place, but something is preventing them from doing their job efficiently. I saw this obviously didn't happen where I live, but I saw on the news they're saying there's certain areas that got so flooded that there was fish from the lakes out in people's lawns, right? People started having to fish fry. So obviously we got a problem, right?
Right. So I would like to hear other people call in. I know that we've talked before about sewage and water board and, what it's going to take for us to be able to get this rebuilt. Why is it that we haven't had newly functioning operating systems after receiving billions of dollars after Hurricane Katrina? I would think that a new sewage and water board would be one of the first places to start. Okay, so I'm going to toss that question out there. We have a person on the phone who is going to give us all of the information, and that's Mr. Harold. Mr. Harold, could you tell us more about what it is that you have to contribute to this conversation, one, on politics, but then also, what is it that you think about the sewage and water board and how it is that we've been impacted by flooding? What are your thoughts, Mr. Harold?
Oh, you have unqualified people, and that your money is confiscated. But anyway, I'm getting close to becoming a senior citizen. I'll plaster this on your radio. I'm only 87.
Come on.
So anyway, and I'm about 8 miles from Paramount Studios, Hollywood, and I'm working on getting George an agent so he can become his own comedian. So anyway, life is good. You've touched on a number of things about Africa, and I have a nephew in North Carolina, and he is he's a medical. He does medical research. He has a PhD and 2 master's degrees, and he travels the world. And his brother and his brother's wife. They have 8 dental offices in North Carolina. I've said this before. As far as education is, what you said, where do we start? Yes. We start with our own mindset. I have, and it sounds like I'm bragging, and I am bragging, but I like success. I have 6 nieces that have doctor before. I'm talking about medical doctors before their names. So, and we have 2 2 males, one here in California, one in Tennessee, and they will be 4th generation doctors. What I'm saying, I hear these people talk about, and I talked the other day about what President Obama didn't do for us. And I stated, I have his picture and his wife framed on the wall. So when you say what is not done for us, and I think it was P-Town I was listening to, the difference in people, and Black people have been damaged because of the way that they think. And we don't work together. So voting is good. You should vote. I'm prepared to vote. I've always voted.
Yes.
Since I was since I came of age to vote. So, but that's not the all in all. It's the way that you think and the way you get together. You talk about, I believe in affirmative action, but I had one niece. She finished Harvard Medical School, and she got a full ride. We didn't have to put out a penny. Then I have a male that went to medical school. So what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to say, there are black people in this country that are living way above the average so-called white person. And if you don't have what you need to sit down and check yourself. If you come to Los Angeles, the Jewish community, education is number one to them. They educate their kids together. When they get out of school, they're ready to go into business or whatever. And the creep that you talk about, he was here the other day. That was in the White House. He has a golf course here. And he was here, and he looked like that he had just been drug up out of the ocean by some of the seals or something. Mm-hmm. But anyway, when you say what they're not doing for us, what we need them to do for us, and figure out or find out who you are and what you should be doing. The power is with you. Mm-hmm. So I listened to this and I listened to this and I said, oh, these people. Now the caller that called and said his wife homeschooled his kids, his yes. 6, I'll say kids, mm-hmm. His 6 children. I'm the oldest of 10, and one of my sisters homeschooled her 3 kids. And one of them today is an investment banker. He invests other people's money. Mm-hmm. So I had heard this caller some time ago, and I was hoping he would call again. And I'm going to try to, touch bases with him. Yes. But the problem with us is us. So you can't change these other people, these so-called white people. And if they didn't have racism, they wouldn't exist. San Bernardino is 70 miles east of Los Angeles. It's the largest county in the United States, but in area, not in population. And if you go to San Diego, you will see some so-called white people so poor, it would make you cry. So the difference in people is how they think. And the Bible says, as a man thinketh, so is he. Mm-hmm. So I see I know black people that, I'll say it again, that so-called white people in their lifetime would never live as good in the house. They have their own private jets, everything. I think you all know the name Sheba Turk. She's from New Orleans, mm-hmm. and she is head and shoulders over everything. She's on 2 television stations here. Yes. So what I would suggest as a senior, that you sit down, and life is something that you plan what you need to do. And nobody's going to give you anything. And I say you, I mean me, I mean us. So I think that's about all. I miss Mr. Gammon, but my main man. Mm-hmm. But that's the way I see it. Yes. That's the way I've seen it through the years. So you can't expect anything from these. And when somebody says that they will vote for the creep that was in the White House instead of Kamala Harris, with me, the conversation is over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Harold. Thank you for calling in.
I can't hear you.
I said thank you so much for calling in.
Okay, you have a good.
Okay, you too, Mr. Harold. Thank you so much. I like the fact that the conversation keeps coming back to Black nationalism, and I like the fact that people are saying, okay, you wind up doing your vote, but there's still so much work to be done. And that's always been my position. You know, I like to be able to talk more about these issues, but we'll go ahead and make sure that we vote and do more. You all sit tight. We're coming around to the end of this show, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tony Flowers, Chief Diversity and Social Responsibility Officer at LCMC Health, and I want to bring you 5 tips to know for a great medical appointment. Number 1, know your questions. Make a short list of your most important questions and bring that with you to your appointment. Number 2, know what's being said. Ask your provider to speak in plain language, not those big long terms. Number 3, know the wellness plan. Ask your provider to explain the plan for your care in 3 simple steps. Number 4, know why the plan is important. Ask your provider to explain what will happen if you forget to follow the plan. And number 5, know your medications. Ask these questions to understand your medication. Why am I taking this? How will it help my condition? What time should I take it? What will happen if I miss a dose? We want you to build a great partnership with your providers and be in the know about your health. This is brought to you through a partnership of LCMC Health and the New Orleans Health Department. Be in the know.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Mount Hermon Baptist Church Hospitality presents The New Black Wall Street, Saturday, September 21st at 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. Have a chance to introduce your products and services to a captivating audience, calling all small business owners, food vendors, authors, body care products, wellness boutiques, clothing merchandise, and much more at Mount Hermon Baptist Church, 3512 U.S. Highway 90 in Avondale. This event is free to the public. To become a vendor or for more information, contact 504-436-8062.
Delgado Community College offers programs in business, technology, health sciences, and the arts with over 100 career-focused degrees and certificates that are affordable, flexible, and transferable. We can give you the knowledge and skills to succeed. Delgado is a great fit if you're starting your post-high school education, or we can help you advance or change your career. Take a step toward being unstoppable at Delgado Community College. Visit dcc.edu to learn more today.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
This is Andronika Morris, host of Put Housing First. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, where we will discuss how housing affects every aspect of our lives and what's necessary, what's needed to guarantee housing for all. Join us every Tuesday at 12 o'clock as we dig down deep onto the issues that affect all of us.
This is the coach, Garrett Sashray. The Sports Report is coming up next on WBOK 1230 AM.
Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look. Who bring the power to the people, partner? Who bring the power to the hood home? Hey. That's that. Tune into the reality check. Look.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. You are listening to the Reality Check, and this is the Classroom Edition with me, Dr. Shepard, and Dr. Richardson. Okay, so we've been having a really good, in-depth conversation about politics and about, other third party, fourth party, fifth party candidates. We've been talking also about Hurricane Francine and what is it that's about to take place moving forward. Do we have a plan to be able to help New Orleanians out when it comes to future flooding? Okay, so I mean, we hit some really hot topics, okay? And I don't want to step too much over the sports report's toes, but I heard that New Orleanians was cutting up this past weekend, okay?
They had a second line on those.
Okay, so we got to go ahead and show y'all they had a second line. Okay, my people on Facebook, you can see it. Now y'all going to Dallas and take it. How is this?
You know what?
Yeah.
They deserve that. Because they be coming down here, be trying to have second lines in the French Quarter.
Okay, so I was going to say that.
So we brought it to them and let them know how it really go, and we really let them know how
Right, a real second line. Okay. Look, and I was like, who was the band? Like, I want to know more information about this. Now, I don't want to step on the sports report's toes. Okay, but I heard y'all was cutting up in Dallas, and who knows, maybe it was deserved. Caleb was a Cowboys fan. He was sitting right there. He didn't want to talk about the game.
He didn't want to talk about it at all.
He was like, let's go on with the show. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about that. When I was in church on Sunday, at church, they had a tailgate party. So, like, the preacher preached and everything, and it was like, okay, time to watch the game, right? And pulled out the inflatable screen with the projector. We had food and everything.
Sounds like a good time.
It was a good time. You know those like really nice, sweet old ladies who are like praise God, in church. They were like, get the ball, make sure you get it. It was so funny.
That's community. That's community.
It really was community, and you got a chance to see how people act in their living rooms. How it is that they yell at the TV screen and such. Okay, so let's put them on the spot, y'all.
Hey.
Are you a Saints fan?
Well, let me tell you this. When the Saints win, I'm happy, but I'm a Philly fan. I like the Eagles.
Jazz.
He answered that totally incorrect. Totally incorrect. Considering Philly comes here next week.
Oh. What are you gonna do?
I'm watching on TV.
Hopefully by yourself, because I don't think you could be in a public place.
I got a colleague. So both of us, Dr. Atwater and I, we came from Philly together.
Right.
So we might watch that game. But, he's a Saints fan. He's always liked the Saints.
Oh.
Even when we lived in Philly, he had Saints stuff all over his house. So, you probably should have brought him on. He'll tell you how much he loves, what's going on with this team and with Derek Carr turning things around in this last week.
I mean, they did turn things around. I heard people no longer are, having threats about what they would do to him if they caught him on the streets, that kind of stuff, because things really turned around. I think that was the kind of victory that people needed to be able to come together and have a moment, especially after this hurricane.
It was rough those first couple of weeks, but we got something going.
Okay, so I mean, let's go ahead and say it though. Do we have any, last thoughts, last opinions about the topics? I want to make sure we exhaust it and get everything out of the way before we end this show. People were calling in saying that they were appreciative of us even talking Pan-Africanism when it comes to the presidential election and Black nationalism.
I mean, I think to sum everything up that we talked about is accountability, right? And so just because we are being hypercritical of people that we are assumed to support, that doesn't mean that we can't hold them accountable, right? We understand that it might be in our best interest to support one or the other candidate, but at the end of the day, they work for us, right? And then at the end of the day, we should also work for us, right? And I think that's the point that you're trying to make, all day today.
That's a bar.
Yeah.
Keep going. That was good.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, not only should we work for us, but we should work for the people around us, right? And bringing it back to Pan-Africanism, the issues that we're facing aren't just our issues, right? Especially with this immigration issue. Why are there so many Haitians going to Springfield? Why would anyone want to go to Springfield, Ohio in the first place?
Right.
Because they have to. They don't want to go there, right? And the reason why they're there is because of the same people who are oppressing us are messing around in their politics, messing around in their economy, right? So if we can fix, Malcolm X said this, right? He said, if you think we need to fix Mississippi before we fix the Congo, we will never get Mississippi fixed, right? All of our issues are interconnected, right? So if we're so concerned about immigrants taking our jobs, we need to be sure that we're not messing around and making it hard for them to have jobs in their own homes, hard for them to live in their own homes, right? If we're concerned about us getting jobs and not competing with people whose labor is being exploited.
So then how do we get a political party that then would support these types of issues?
Well, that was one of the things I was going to talk about when we were talking about us being taken for granted. When we first got the right to vote, right? This is back in the 1860s, 1870s during Reconstruction, right? We had the Freedmen's Bureau. It was created by Abraham Lincoln. One of the last things he did before he died, he created the Freedmen's Bureau for abandoned lands, right? And that was an organization dedicated to helping Black folks attain property, helping Black folks get educated, and they encouraged the Black community. This is during the 1800s, right? Late 1800s. Encouraged the Black community to set up their own political parties. There's a reason why New Orleans, right, back in the 1800s, was able to elect dozens of Black men to be senators, to be congressmen, to represent this state, right? The Freedmen's Bureau was sabotaged, right? It was its funding was cut by President Grant after the Black population got him elected. There was 60,000 or 600,000. Actually, I'm messing up the numbers, but basically, without the Black vote, President Grant wouldn't have been elected. So when we're talking about Black political
so you're
parties,
saying President Grant was elected with Black votes and then goes in and cuts Black programs.
we would have had Grant would have lost the election by 300,000 votes if Black voters didn't vote for him. He won the election by 300,000 votes, right? Because 600,000 Black people voted for him.
Okay, I think that gets us back to that comment about how we need to own our vote. It goes back to something Caleb said earlier about strategizing with our vote. And we just want to make sure that we get the message across. People need to vote, and we also need to come together and be independent, do the organizing, activizing work outside of just voting. Okay. This is Dr. Shepard signing off. Gerard will be back tomorrow. It was nice being with you all. And thank you, Dr. Richardson, for joining me.
Peace and thanks.
All right. Thank y'all. Peace.